today.
You're gone. You're gone.
Sounds fabulous wherever it is. Oh, none of that. It's beautiful. I just found that open.
And get the projectors to come up.
So they're trying to get the camera going.
I think if the projectors turn on.
It's not just the fun of things. My poor doggy. My poor dog, I'm worried he can't walk. So I took him in. The lab is overweight.
As the press release he put out wasn't picked up by anybody. And I don't. He put out that press release that said that definitive decision, no decision. Council, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us at our regular council meeting for Monday, August 12th, 2013. I see that we have quorum and I call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome each of you that are here this evening. I know that there's overflow capacity. We didn't think that it would be this deep at the doorway, and we will try to speak up so that you can hear. We did ask that if perhaps something could be piped outside, but that wasn't able to be done. So we will do our best to speak up, I think each member of council, so that all here can hear what's going on in our proceedings. And I know that some of you have been here before, but for many of you, it's your first time coming to a council meeting. So it is a little bit formal. We have some formal things to go through, like adopting the agenda. And I know that some members of council will realign the agenda and change some items on the agenda so that we can deal with probably the reason that you're mainly here, which is the longboarding overhold issue up front as early as possible in the meeting so that then you can carry on with your evening. So I'm now going to do a few formalities. We also, as you see on our screen, we have Councillor Accursi, who couldn't be with us this evening in person, but he is Skyping in over the internet and wanted to be here. So we actually have to, one of the first things we have to do is approve, these are all the rules that we have to follow. So we have to approve something with our procedure bylaw to allow Councillor Accursi to join us. So it has been moved by Councillor Ribiak, seconded by Councillor Durley, that in accordance with the Town of Pelham procedural bylaw, which permits a member of council to participate in any meeting for a specified time period by means of a communications facility, including Skype, if the majority of members present in person do so consent, now therefore be it resolved that Councillor Accursi be and is hereby permitted to attend a portion of this council meeting through such means. Any discussion? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. What's it say? Please ask Councillor Accursi.
Just ask if Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Accursi. Can you hear us? So we appreciate your latitude with technical difficulties here. So we're going to try and get Councillor Accursi. Councillor Accursi, can you hear us? And that's why this, for those that can see, that's why this laptop's in front. Normally this is open and we can see everybody, but that's why it's here.
Can you hear us now?
They tried this about 7 times and it's not working this evening. Please bear with us.
Get ready to call him.
Councillor Accursi, can you hear us? Can you type him a message?
Yeah, send him a
Can you type
message.
him a message?
Can you type him a
Send
message?
him a message to confirm. Yeah.
No, can you hear us?
I can't hear you either.
How long are we going to play with this?
Yeah.
90 seconds.
I have quorum, so.
cell phone.
Do we have a phone we can plug in?
Clerk Kersey?
Jordan, can you track down a phone that can we put the phone in here?
One right here. We can call him on the speaker.
Yeah.
If he was in the parking lot, we wouldn't wait this long.
What I propose is that we continue. Staff are going to try a couple of different options to get our counselor engaged. We have video, and we're going to try and use good old Ma Bell to on a speakerphone so that perhaps he can hear us. In the meantime, I would ask that perhaps we proceed with the agenda, and I would ask Councillor Durley to lead us in the invocation, followed by the singing of the national anthem, led by Councillor Papp, and I would ask all that are able to rise.
Dear God, who has given us grace to make our common goals unto Thee, and who does promise that when two or more are gathered unto Thy name, You will grant their requests. Lord, we supplicate Your blessing upon this assembly. Fulfill now, O Lord, the petitions of Thy servants, as may be expected of them. Grant all in His council chambers the knowledge of trust, justice, and honor in all considerations placed before them. Provide us in this chamber, O Lord, strong minds and discerning spirit as we deliberate over the business of our town, that we move forever forward to ensure the town of Pelham continues to be a vibrant, caring, creative community. God bless all in our community and grant us in this chamber the wisdom, will, and generosity to guide the town of Pelham through the challenges and successes that lie ahead. Amen.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patron of, in all thy Son's command, with glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free, from far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, councillors. Thank you all. Now, I have one item before we adopt our agenda this evening, and that is to introduce and to welcome a new member of our staff. Joining us this evening for her first council meeting, but she joined the town on July 29th, is Nushi Tavasoli. Thank you very much, Nushi, for joining us. Nushi is our new Director of Planning and Development Services. Nushi brings more than 20 years of progressive experience as a successful urban planner, manager, professional architect, and a variety of public and private sector positions. She most recently served as a senior planner with the City of Windsor. She holds a Master's of Science in Architecture and Urban Planning. She's a registered planner, and she's also a certified building code official with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. We are very excited to welcome Nushi to our team, and thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you, Nushi. I would be remiss if I didn't, as we did last meeting, thank Keegan Jennings, who was our acting director for a number of months. Thank you, Keegan, for your service, and you continue to serve in the capacity of chief building official. And I know that Nushi in the opening weeks has leaned on you extensively in her transition. So thank you again, Keegan, for your service. Thank you. Next, we'll move to approval of the agenda. And it has been moved by, thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Ribbiak, seconded by Councillor Durley, that the agenda for the August 12, 2013 regular meeting of council be adopted. There are some items that I think the clerk sent around, and I know Councillor Papp wanted to start with one of them. Councillor Papp?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would ask that under staff reports, item 14.2.9, longboarding safety, be moved up to following the delegations under 7.2. So it'll probably be itemized to 7.2. Oh, no, it'll be 14.2.9. So on the delegations, I would ask that we move that item to that particular part of the agenda.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Durley? All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. The next item, there was Pamela Hall, Kenneth McDowell correspondence regarding Castellano Development, removal of the holding provision. Is there a councillor that would move that we receive that at our meeting? Councillor Papp, you'll move that? And that would be under 13.3. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor King? All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. The next is a report that was missed. It was Public Works report regarding Pelham Street at Pancake Lane traffic signal. Can we add that to the agenda? Councillor Durley?
So moved.
And that will be at 14.211. Councillor Papp, you'll second that? All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion's carried. I also wanted to report on the recent visit from the ambassador of Zimbabwe, Ambassador Chidnaya, and I didn't find out about that until the agenda was approved last Wednesday, so I would ask that perhaps we can include that as a report under my reports. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Ribbiak, seconder. Councillor Papp. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. And then our acting CAO had a report that she wanted to discuss. Madam
yeah.
CAO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's come to my attention that the report under item 14.2.2 and the corresponding bylaw 17.1.3 will need further investigation before council consideration, and I'm asking that a member of council might make a motion to remove these items from the agenda.
Question, if I could?
Let's put the motion on, then you can ask a question. Councillor Papp?
Put it on the floor. A move.
Councillor Clark, will you second that?
No.
Okay. Is there a
Seconder.
seconder? Councillor Durley? Your question, Councillor?
If the acting CAO could explain what those changes are, for not everyone in this room has an agenda.
Sure. Actually, I'll refer it to Mr. Jennings, the planning.
Mr. Jennings?
There's a bylaw and a report to withdraw the holding provisions of the Wheeland Estates subdivision agreement and to work on a rezoning for a technical error. That has to be investigated more because it does not appear to be a technical error with that bylaw. So we have to relook at that and bring a report back in September.
So when can you bring it forward, I guess, is the question?
September 3rd.
September 2nd or 3rd or whatever.
Okay, Councillor?
It's fine.
Okay, so it's understood that that will come back to us September 3rd. So I'm going to call the question unless there's further questions. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. And now to the entire agenda as amended. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. The next item is disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Those are conflicts of interest. And I wonder if any member of council has any conflicts that they need to disclose at this time. If there are none present, I don't know if do we have Councillor Kersey online? Okay, so can that be noted in the minutes?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is delegations, and the first is from the Pelham Dog Park Committee. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. And I think we're going to toggle your presentation and put it on the screen. Is that correct? And please join us at the podium and introduce yourselves.
Mr. Mayor, point of order, if I could, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Because of the volume of our agenda this evening, 465 pages, I would like to ask that we strictly follow the rules of our meetings, which means all presentations are 10 minutes or less.
Okay.
Could you make that clear?
Yes, that's,
you.
thank you very much. That is contained in our in our procedure bylaw, and I hope that you will adhere to those, to that time.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor.
Okay.
Go ahead, please proceed.
Councilors, town staff, and Mayor Augustine, we appreciate the opportunity to provide information which we hope will help result in a decision to establish an off-leash dog park in Pelham. We've made several prior presentations, submissions, and emails explaining how a dog park would benefit our community. Today, we just hope to reiterate these benefits. Since there are many, we'll just touch on a few of the main areas. Dog parks tend to attract adult park users and provide outdoor enjoyment for many dog-loving people. Dog parks are some of the most used parks in cities and towns where they're available. People with disabilities, the elderly, and those who live alone can benefit from dog parks, as it provides a place for them to go with their canine companions. As demonstrated through therapy dog programs, being around dogs help people immensely. A dog park would provide a constant place where people can enjoy the therapeutic benefit of dogs. Dog parks are a place for non-dog owners to go to learn about dogs or just enjoy dogs. Many educational and fun events can be held at dog parks, including fundraisers, dog training seminars, and fun seasonal dog parties. Perhaps most importantly, dog parks offer a sense of community and bring people together. As demonstrated at many other dog parks, users help look after a park that they love and helped to create. Finally, to sum up all the benefits, dog parks are for people, not just dogs. We all need fun, friends, and exercise. Our research indicates that in most communities, approximately 25 to 30% of our homes have a dog. Approximately the same number who have children. At last count, there are over 500 dog parks in Canada, with approximately 200 of those in Ontario, and more are opening all the time. Locally, St. Catharines has 2 dog parks. There currently is 1 each in Port Colborne, Niagara Falls, and Fort Erie. The City of Welland has approved $115,000 in their 2013 budget for a dog park. Pelham Dogs is a caring, committed group of dog owners who are prepared to participate fully in ensuring the success of a dog park. We are eager to undertake fundraising projects to do our best to meet the goal of raising $10,000. We already have close to $3,000 in pledges. As volunteers, we're also eager to help in ongoing monitoring of the area and helping to keep it clean. In conclusion, it's our hope that Pelham will continue to live up to its reputation as a vibrant, creative, and caring community by helping us to provide this much-desired recreation opportunity for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lafoy, and Ms. DeFazio for your presentation. We certainly appreciate it. Any questions for Pam and Shirley at this point, members of council? I do have a question. I understood that there was supposed to be a report from staff regarding the dog park. Maybe the acting CAO or the Director of Recreation and Wellness can let us know about that.
The report was being prepared by the CAO, and Darren has been on vacation for 2 weeks now, and the report will be coming on September 3rd
Okay.
to council.
So we look forward to that. And you offered in your presentation that you would do some fundraising.
Yes.
Which is wonderful, and perhaps that can be part of the report as well. Any questions for Ms. Lafoy and Ms. DeFazio at this point from members of council? Councillor Papp.
Thank you. I guess I should always declare a conflict because I've got a big goofy lab. So anyhow, have you...
I have a little goofy border collie. So.
Just told me today he's overweight, so that's another story. I wonder who's doing that. Have you, in your experiences, through you, Mr. Mayor, have you heard of any sort of negative reactions or actions that have happened in the local dog parks that you're aware of in this area? Has there been any?
There are always negative things that happen in dog parks because you're dealing with a wide range of people and a wide range of dogs. Some of them are trained, some of them are not.
Right.
Our goal would be to provide some education for owners with their dogs at our park to help overcome those negative things. I think that dog parks are only as successful as the people who are helping with them.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Others? We may have more questions when we get that report, and I do have it moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Durley, that the information presented by Shirley Lafoy and Pam DeFazio for Pelham Dog, requesting the council approve a dog park and that the town open an account to support Pelham dogs in their fundraising efforts be received and referred to staff, and that staff be directed to provide an update report regarding the development of a Pelham dog park at the next regular meeting of council scheduled for September, that's Tuesday, September 3rd, 2013. Any comments, questions? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried, and we look forward to that report. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
And for your work on this, and council will see what that looks like at our next meeting.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I understand, thank you, the clerk's just whispering in my ear. I understand that the Councillor Kersey is on speakerphone. Councillor Kersey, can you hear us? Okay, he can hear us, but we can barely hear him, so we'll try and continue to work our way through this. The clerk has moved the computer around here so Councillor Kersey can see. I can't see, but he can. And now I would ask our next delegation, which is Doug Major, to come forward, please. And I believe the clerk has helped you. And if you have others, please introduce them.
Point of order, if I could, please, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councillor. Point of order? What is your point of order?
My point of order is I'm not really quite sure what order we're going in here tonight. I'm very confused by this whole evening, okay? The response of these people that are here tonight is for something that hasn't happened. I don't understand. So can someone explain to me how this got to this point from information from this building? How did that happen?
Councillor, we are going in the order that we approved in the agenda to hear delegations. It was voted on by this body. We will hear delegations before us. Councillor Papp moved the motion that the report will come forward immediately following that. That's the order. In the report, you'll find information about the background about this, and I would encourage you to take a look at that. That's not a point of order. So I'm going to ask Mr. Major to please give us your presentation.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, members of Town Council, members of Town staff, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here representing a delegation that comprised of the residents, the farmers, the businessmen, and general users of Overholt Road. I'm a resident of Fonthill, and I'm very familiar with the road. It is the published position of the recommendation in front of the town for consideration and approval this evening, and it has been very simple.
Point of order. That is incorrect.
That is incorrect.
Please let the delegate speak. Okay, you can ask the questions about that
You
later.
can ask questions at the end of his presentation?
Go ahead, Mr. Major, I apologize.
Sorry. These recommendations have been simple and appear to be quite neat and tidy. It includes the closure of Overholt Road to vehicular traffic. It includes, and this is predicated in large part that it's an infrequently used road with approximately 30 cars per day usage. It incorporates a gate lock key system where the local farm community would be provided keys to open and close the gates at the top and at the bottom of Overholt Road. It incorporates waste recycle containers, a portable washroom, and a small parking area. These recommendations were derived from a creative problem-solving exercise conducted in this office, as we understand it, for a resolution to the longboarding problem in Pelham. And this led to a recommendation that we understand is being put forward today for approval by the council. Our delegation wants to present data and facts that should have been available for this problem-solving process, and they are to the extent that they may have altered the recommendation that was provided. Our position is quite simple. Overholt Road should not be closed. This is not the solution. Overholt Road is... Overholt Road...
Order.
Overholt Road is an active arterial access road for the town of Pelham. It is the main northern bypass road for Regional Road 20, or Highway 20 as most of us call it, through Font Hill. Traffic studies, which were conducted, demonstrate that in one 12-hour period of time, the number of vehicles using the road was 569 vehicles, which is a far cry from 30 and represents only a 12-hour period. Surveys that were conducted in combination with the traffic survey led to 500+ letters being submitted to the town clerk objecting to the closure. More importantly, the surveys revealed that Overholt Road and affects multiple groups if it were to be closed. The farm community is a very large group within this area. They are strongly opposed to the closure. They feel that they are a forgotten and little known user group. Their traffic flow goes from east to west, west to east, north to south, and south to north. This depicts the group that goes from north to south. Go back one. Goes east to west, and it outlines the differences and the inefficiencies that are occasioned. The next slide demonstrates the traffic flow of the group that goes from north to south, and it outlines the differences in the two routes that are depicted and provided as options. The revised option and traffic flow will generate less efficient, more cost occurrence on the part of the farmers, and increase in the safety risks for the farmers and the citizens of the community. Williams Orchard, Iggy's Farm, and the Chrysler Farm all depend upon drive-through customers for their livelihood. They sell produce from their facilities. The closure of Overholt Road would in fact constitute the closure of one of two main artery roads to provide drive-through traffic to their operations, and could result in catastrophic implications to them, up to including potential loss of business. This is wrong and could be the source of damage suits if it were to take place. Business in the community, residents in the community, and service vehicles also regularly use this road in the northern section of town. These groups all face the same increase in cost, increase in inefficiency, and safety risks as the farm community members. And I guess the question is, why should all of these interest groups pay a penalty for the closure of Overholt? Are they all wrong? And why were they not included in the original assessment process to derive a responsible solution for longboarding? I guess the question also becomes one of, do we want downtown Font Hill plagued with farm vehicles and all of the potential risks and inconvenience associated with that? In addition to the information of letters that was obtained on the survey results, we also learned that there were many, many other unsolicited comments that came forward on those surveys. Some of them are listed on that slide above, and you have in your packages. Should the recommended proposal be accepted by councils, questions are numerous, and answers at this point in time appear to be few. How can any rational individual pass any proposal without the facts? Should Overholt Road be closed and be opened for the skateboarders, the longboarders? Supervision would be a must. What is the cost of this? Who, when, where, and how? What is the cost of site preparation? Barriers, parking facilities, waste containment and collection, along with other user footprint costs. What is the cost of injury? The cost of liability insurance as for such a use of Overholt Road? And who pays these costs? What really is suitable, what is the real suitability of Overholt Road for the use of longboarders? This is a sport that is constantly seeking bigger and better facilities. They want more challenging hills, longer hills. When does Overholt become novice and boring to the users? And what then is the fix for this small interest group? There is an overriding matter of jurisdiction. Mr. Dayball is a presenter this evening and will be covering this in much more detail. Suffice it to say, from my perspective, it is an important aspect and must be considered as an integral part of the decision-making process by the town council. Other considerations also come into play. Environmental implications, and they've been listed on this board. They're not only limited to these, but these are certainly important criteria to be considered. It's interesting that recent vandalism of the just installed no skateboarding signage has taken place, and miraculously today before the meeting that vandalism was repaired and the sign put back to order. The flagrant disregard of the law by individuals, some of whom may be members of this interest group, cannot be ignored. The public have rights also. They have a right to quiet enjoyment, freedom from theft and vandalism of both public and private property, and the open use of public roads for which their tax dollars have been spent. What is required? I think a question that needs to be asked. On this particular slide, we've listed what we believe to be the minimum requirements in order to come to an appropriate resolution that makes sense for the greatest number of constituents and interest groups. Regardless of the facts that we would present, there is an empathy for the longboarders. We were all young. We all partook in activities, some of which were equally dangerous and potentially personally harmful when we were that age, whether it was playing hockey on the road, baseball on the road, skating in the wintertime on the road, hooking onto the back of cars on snow-covered streets for a joyride as far as the car could take you. We did them all. And so there is great empathy for the longboarders. However, closure of Overholt as an active arterial access road is not the right solution. And we would again reiterate that to you folks as the town council people.
Continue.
We believe other options exist, and they may incorporate both the use of public and or private facilities. We could assist in the identification of and assessment of these options. In the meantime, there are several steps that we believe need to be taken, and we've attempted to solicit attention to those and to identify them in this particular deputation. In conclusion, we would urge the council to reject any proposal to close Overholt Road. is our considered opinion that with the facts available, that particular aspect of our recommendation could in fact be accomplished this evening, regardless of what other activities or whatever pursuits are deemed to be considered and appropriate. We urge Town Council to conduct appropriate studies and consider the impacts to all users. And those users are varied, and some are quite extensive. We urge Town Council to develop alternate solutions that are legally compliant within their jurisdiction, that are economically responsible, ensuring proper use of taxpayers' monies, that are common sense in nature and reflect the will of the general public and not that of just a small interest group, a portion of the general public of the town of Pelham. Ladies and gentlemen of the Town Council, the facts, we believe, speak for themselves. I want to thank you for the ability to address this group this evening, and I would be more than prepared to receive any questions should there be any. And I hope I've stayed under 10 minutes.
Just a little over. Thank you very much for your presentation, Mr. Major, and for all the work that you put into it. Certainly a very comprehensive report that's before us and documents. I know that Councillor Clark has a question. Councillor Clark.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Major, did you happen to read the press release that was released by the town of Pelham? It would have been a week ago Friday.
I think it was last Saturday, and yes, I did read it.
Did read it. Where did you read it?
Was under your signature, I believe?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Was it? Can you tell me where you saw it?
Yes, I received that from an interested neighbor who had received it directly from you.
Correct. Okay. Did any? Well, I guess I can't ask that question. I can only ask you. Maybe if you could ask the people behind you, because I can only ask you. If anybody else in this room read that press release?
Other than those, my belief is other than those that were contacted by us directly or by the neighbor directly, Mr. Hill, there would not have been any further notice of that.
Okay. Then I have a question for Mr. Mayor. Yes, if we could ask our press person if we could find out why that did not end up in the press. Because I'm sure if people had read it on the press,
Councillor Clark
might have had a little different response this week.
Councillor Clark, we will ask the CAO about the issuing of the press release. Perhaps you can fill in for those that didn't see it why it's so important to you first, and then we'll get an answer from staff.
So you're asking me to explain to you why I wanted a press release?
That's fine. If you want to leave everybody in the dark, you don't have to.
Nope. I just want to make sure that you want to hear what I got to say. Okay. I felt the week that you were on vacation, I was the deputy mayor, and I could see that this was spiraling out of control, and I wanted to let the residents know that there is no decision being made tonight. There has been no meeting of quorum discussing any closures of any of the streets in Pelham. That meeting that was held had no quorum. I'm willing to bet it's not even a legal meeting. All right?
Okay.
But no, let me finish. So what I did was I contacted the CAO, Darren, and he and I discussed it, and that we would do a press release. Well, the press release was done. It was emailed to me. I know that for sure. I emailed it to a few people that were interested, but I want to know, did that email make it to the press? And if not, why not?
We're going to get an answer from either the acting CAO or the communications coordinator.
Yes, through Mr. Mayor. The press release was issued in tandem with another press release on the design concept for the skateboard park. It did go directly to the press. I will refer to Anna if she knows what papers it was picked up in.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the press release did go directly to all the press, all the media within Niagara region that we always generally send all of our media to. It did get posted on our website on Friday as well.
Thank you. So it was clarified, Councillor. Do you have further questions? Do you have further questions for the presenter?
Yes, I do. Mr. Major, you were speaking about a report that talked, and you mentioned some details about locked fences and stuff like that. Can you tell me where you saw that or what that's about? Because I have no idea.
Well, first of all, I first saw it on the Sunday online information session from the mayor. And the slide 2 that we had up here was directly lifted from that online information circuit. I was somewhat confused by what I had read in the papers and what I saw on that particular bit of information, and I attended a meeting with Mr. Ottaway on the Monday after the release of that document. I was It was confirmed to me at that point in time that the information on the mayor's blog was in fact an accurate depiction of the results of that analysis. We received a copy of the notes, and the notes, using your creative problem-solving process, did reflect all of those criteria and led you to the recommendation that was put forward. And at that time, I was informed that that would be presented at this meeting for approval by the council.
Thank you, Mr. Major. Councillor, any further questions?
I'm going to wait.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Other questions for our presenter, Councillor King?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for your presentation this evening. I just have one question for you, and it may have been covered and I may have missed it, but that question is there any other area within the region, Fort Erie to Grimsby, that there has been a road closure to accommodate such an activity?
As a layperson, I have been significantly hampered in finding out what other municipalities are in fact contemplating or are doing. My understanding is that Thorold has taken some steps to provide access to longboarders along the Welland Canal. No other municipality that I can find out about has done anything to either encourage or to endorse or to entertain a proposal of the nature here. Question, but I spent time trying to do all of that, and it's not the easiest process to go through as a layperson.
I can appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Other questions for Mr. Major? Mr. Major, I appreciate your presentation. I do have one question. You certainly made it very clear about the closing of Overholt. One of your last slides, you talk about our delegation is prepared to cooperate in developing alternative solutions. You know that the recommendation before us this evening is not to close a specific road, but rather to hold a public meeting to get all interested stakeholders together. Are you willing to assist in that regard moving forward to perhaps work with the longboarders to find appropriate venues for them?
Mr. Mayor, in the process of doing all of the investigatory activities prior to this presentation and involved in this presentation, I have met numerous members of the community north of Pelham that would be east of Victoria Road and west of Rice Road, if we could put it that way. Yep. Within that group, there is a significant number of people that have interest in this, have the skill sets to provide sensible, logical, and intelligent input, and I have a number of those that feel they would be prepared to do so. I've also talked to some longboarders, one who purports to be the oldest longboarder in the Niagara region, and he uses his longboard primarily for transportation, but a certain amount of recreational activity as well. And he is prepared to step forward as part of input from our delegation. By the way, he also is against the closure of Overholt as not being the right solution.
Thank you very much, Mr. Major. I'm very pleased to hear that, and I think, as I mentioned, the proposal before us this evening is to call that type of public meeting, get all voices from the community together so that we can try and find a solution. And I'm very pleased that you've offered to do that along with others in your group. So thank you very much for your presentation.
I believe our delegation would be more than acceptable to your revised proposal. However, I do believe also that they would be very strong in their belief that anything moving forward that incorporates the closure of Overholt Road would be absolutely unacceptable.
Okay, thank you for making that clear. I appreciate your presentation. Thank you. I do want to mention to members of council that we will be doing a one motion to receive all of the presentations together. So our next presenter is Mr. Isaac Harley. He may be outside, and I would ask, or behind some folks, and I would ask that those at the door would please allow Mr. Harley access to the room.
Alright, so the other day I got an injury to my mouth and I have a split lip, so it's a little hard to talk, so my mom will be speaking for me.
Okay, thank you. If you could just introduce yourself and others that might be with you, and I would ask, I know it's very difficult, very cramped quarters. I would ask that we all listen to this delegation as we listened to the previous one. Go ahead.
I am Sarah Harley. I'm the mother of Isaac and Aaron Harley, plus 3 others that are at home right now. And these are some of the other longboarders that are part of the FSU. I don't think I need to go through everybody's name, or do you need that?
No, go ahead.
All right, so Isaac's prepared this presentation. We've talked to the mayor numerous times, but I'm doing it for him just because he's got this internal lip issue. So he wanted to start with this. Y'all do have internet. Sorry, I didn't know you were doing
Taxing our technology, I think, this evening.
So sorry.
We didn't know you needed it. Is it possible to, yeah, is it possible to either describe the video or
Yes, it is.
carry on without it?
Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
There's no volume.
Yeah, we didn't know you were going to do this, so the volume may not be. There we go.
Yeah, there's runners everywhere. Good runners, too. They all go through the same thing. Runners aren't criminals. Running's not a crime. You want to run. You want to run. You want to run.
The boys just felt that that's how they've been feeling recently in the community, with them being banned on various roads, although cyclists and pedestrians are still able to use these roads that are considered unsafe for other sports. So we'll get into the longboarding bylaw. This is a press release from July 17th. Isaac wanted to highlight that the main part of this is that we're looking for safety, and that we are fully supported by the community in Pelham, and that this is just an interim measure, the bylaw that was enforced. In the coming weeks at the town of Pelham, the Niagara Regional Police will jointly develop a safety and education campaign to encourage a partnership between boarders, parents, area residents, bylaw enforcement, and police. They just want to work with everybody and get a safe place for these youth to be. So what are our issues? Longboarders are being left with little to no places to do their sport. Longboarders are considered a nuisance to residents. Lack of education of the sport to those who do not longboard themselves. There is a concern for safety among residents and drivers. Younger generation, younger kids need to be taught to respect traffic and the roads themselves. How do we solve these issues? Closing Overholt Road. The closure of Overholt Road ensures that longboarders are safe, longboarders are nowhere near residents, young longboarders will be given an opportunity to learn how to respect traffic. How will the closure of Overholt Road ensure longboarders are safe? The closure of Overholt Road ensures that there are no vehicles traveling through, giving no potential of a longboarder being struck by a car. How does the closure of Overholt Road ensure that longboarders are nowhere near residents of Pelham? The issue of longboarding in the town of Pelham is not an issue of longboarders commuting from one place to another. Residents have an issue of longboarders doing slide free ride sessions in front of their houses, on their streets, on their routes, etc. The closure of Overholt Road for longboarders ensures that Overholt Road will be the only hill in Pelham used for sliding free ride sessions. How do we keep Overholt from becoming too crowded? We make memberships and licenses. How will people know if you are a member? Customized luggage tags, such as the one in the picture, can be used to identify whether someone is a member or not. What will be the cost for membership? Pelham residents will have to pay $20 for a year membership to Overholt Road. Non-Pelham residents must pay $50 for a year membership to Overholt Road. This cost will maximize revenue but still keep Overholt Road from becoming too crowded. Where will the funds go? The funds from the memberships can be used to pay for the gates that will be put in at the top and bottom of Overholt Road. Until all funds are raised to put the gates in, temporary roadblocks, those that are used for events, can be used to block off Overholt Road. How will the rest of the funds for the gates be raised? Sponsors. All of the companies shown here have been contacted by myself or my son and are all interested and all wish to be able to be part of our movement. Some wish to support us in the form of paying a certain amount of money towards the gates, and others by sending out prizes for us to auction off at a slide jam longboarding competition that we will be capable of hosting upon Overholt Road's closure. Slide jams and longboard competitions. A $5 entry fee, no membership needed, estimated number on 80 plus competitors, additional revenue for prizes and raffles. It brings revenue into the town just as a hockey tournament would. What restrictions would be put on Overholt Road upon the closure? Rules. No boarding after dark or before sunrise. Helmets and gloves are mandatory. Skate at your own risk. Pick up your own garbage. Respect the farmers coming up the road, and if asked, be assistance such as closing and opening the gate for them also. Okay. Do not start longboarding halfway down the hill. You always start at the top to avoid collisions. No skating without a membership or license. How will these rules be enforced? Surprise checkups can be done by the NRP to make sure everything is in order and running smoothly. Consequences for those not following the rules can be determined by the NRP. Who will do general pickup around the hill if some clutter is left behind? The Fonthill Skaters Union. The Fonthill Skaters Union has proudly adopted Overholt Road and will be maintaining the road and the areas surrounding the road. What are the cons of closing Overholt Road for longboarders? Travelers will have to take a detour no more than 1.1 kilometer difference than taking Overholt Road. Why should the town of Pelham turn Overholt Road over to the longboarders? Longboarders and general youth are realizing what their town can do for them and are becoming more proactive. For example, FSU has volunteered to assist the library multiple times throughout the month of August. FSU has adopted Overholt Road and will be maintaining the street. Pros amazingly outweigh the cons. More supporters than those upset with the closure. Longboarders and drivers will be safe from each other. Young longboarders will be given the opportunity to socialize with the older boarders and learn about safety. Only safe longboarding will be done in the town of Pelham. The town of Pelham will be put upon the map as a leader, the beginning of a movement across the whole province, coast, nation, continent, and world. I would appreciate the laughter to cease. It's rather embarrassing at our council. Thank you. Longboarders are leaving a clean, green, ecological footprint everywhere they go. Let's not turn a longboard into a gas-guzzling car. The closure of Overholt Road will keep cars from traveling around the orchards, wildlife, and general nature. The lessened amount of pollution in the air in that area could potentially assist the growth of the plants, including Williams' product, possibly increasing revenue. Again, please. Emergency response units do not use Overholt Road. Emergency response units will not be raised, times will not be raised, as routes will be unaffected. Longboarding is a cheap and affordable sport. For less than $400, someone can have a very functional board, safe helmet, slide gloves, and knee pads. With no public transportation in the town of Pelham, it is a very affordable means of getting from point A to point B for all ages. As shown in this picture of Williams Orchard website, the directions provided do not involve Overholt Road. So, in the longboarder's view, no revenue will be lost. As shown on the picture of Bissell's Hideaway website, Overholt Road again is not mentioned in their directions, therefore, no revenue will be lost. These are some quotes from some famous longboarders. My main focus of skating is my safety and the safety of those around me. James Kelly. Most people look at longboarders and think that we're doing really dangerous things. We're out of control and we're risk takers. But to tell you the truth, if I wasn't confident, I wouldn't go down. I'm not out there to kill myself. I'm out there to have another run. John Barnett. Everyone in this situation is concerned about safety, the council members, the longboarders, and the residents. So why wouldn't we choose the safest, most logical option? Close Overholt Road for longboarders and go to bed tonight knowing that you are keeping the town of Pelham safe.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you, Isaac, for putting it together, and Sarah for offering it. I wonder if members of council have any questions for you at this time in your comprehensive presentation. Councillor Ribbiak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, and also please accept my appreciation for the presentation that you made. I know you heard the presentation that preceded yours, and I know that you heard those opposed to Overholt Road's closing be willing to participate in a discussion with regard to ways of providing safe longboarding facilities other than closing Overholt Road. My question to you, Isaac, is are there measures, in your view, that can be taken that will provide for safe longboarding in Pelham without closing Overholt Road? Is that a discussion that you can participate in?
Yes, sir. I believe that is a very good way that we can solve this issue. I believe there are many other options, and I believe we just need to find the right one. And I am very willing to participate in a conversation with a majority or a variety of different people to find a solution.
Okay.
And so is the Fawn Hill Skaters Union, as well as other longboarders in this area.
Terrific. So there's lots of room for a discussion, and there's no commitment on anybody's part for the need to
Yes,
close
sir.
Overholt Road as the only possible solution.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that
Okay.
very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the question and the answer. Other questions for our presenters? There being none, thank you very much for putting your presentation together and for giving it as well. And as mentioned, we'll hear the next presentation, then we'll deal with the report before us. Okay, thank you. The next presenter is Mr. Dayball. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, Mr. Dayball.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, council staff, and the assembled people here. If anybody can't hear me, I've got a slight frog in my throat tonight for some reason, so I'll try to keep my voice as loud as possible. I'd like to thank everybody that's made the presentation so far, and I, quite frankly, don't have a lot to add on the same vein as what's been said already. I'm appearing tonight as lifelong Pelham citizen Lee Dayball, as sixth-generation farmer Lee Dayball, but I'm not appearing as what some people may know me as lawyer Lee Dayball, at least not yet. So, in speaking to the jurisdictional issues, which have, Mr. Major referred to me, and quite frankly, I was very happy to hear Mr. Harley speak in terms of looking at alternative solutions, because I've done some research on this area, on this particular issue, as you can well imagine. When as a practicing lawyer, the first inclination is to say, well, can it be done? Can it be done legally? Notwithstanding, I guess my first reaction was when my mother actually contacted me and indicated, I hear they're closing Overholt Road. And my first response was, Mom, you're having a senior's moment. Nobody would ever nobody would ever think about closing Overholt Road. Sure enough, I did some online research. Lo and behold, there was a whole bunch of articles in terms of what this facility is going to be viewed as. So, Mr. Mayor, you're on record as calling it in a Niagara This Week article as a recreation area. Well, that puts a number of factors into play. First of all, I'm not sure if council is completely aware of some of the jurisdictional restrictions that instituting a longboarding facility would have on Overholt Road. First of all, Overholt Road is square in the middle of the Niagara Escarpment Commission jurisdictional area. That means any official amendments to that plan supersede any official amendments to the town of Pelham plan. In other words, you can close the road, providing you follow your town guidelines to do that. But as soon as you turn it into a recreational area, full stop. The town can't do that because they have to, that contravenes the Niagara Escarpment Commission plan guidelines. And I don't see how you can call it anything other than a recreational use area. In fact, the longboarding presentation we saw tonight talks about things like entry fees. It talks about competitions. It talks about installing facilities, as minor as they may be. The NEC will clearly use that as a guideline to calling that a recreational use facility. So the problem, so let's think about that in terms of a larger context. What if somebody was to start a cross-country ski area charging admission on the face of the escarpment somewhere in Lincoln, or whether they would have a zip line or something like that? It would be inconceivable that the NEC would not say, again, full stop. We need to have the proper NEC approvals put into place, and in doing so, it takes it completely out of the town's jurisdiction. They can put the proposal forward, but there's a process for doing that. Turning this into a recreational area in that designated zoning is a non-starter. What's the alternative to that? I've heard council ask a couple of times tonight, is there any other alternatives? Well, in my research of the NEC jurisdictional area, I was actually mistaken. I thought it actually came right through Marlene Stewart Park and ended up right at the brow of Highway 20. It actually doesn't. It ends below the swimming pool complex and below that area. I actually went in and took a look at the park. You know, there's a nice bowl feature in there that can be carved out into a nice longboarding road, dumping out below the pool. I paced it off. It's longer than the steep section of Overholt. There's a boarding park going in there in any event. Why not add a longboarding track within the park? You're outside of NEC control. You have the ability to keep it within the town. You don't disrupt all the other interest groups. And quite frankly, I think the boarders would like it better in the long run. That option doesn't ever appear to have been considered. I'm not quite sure why. You want a starting point for some discussions. That would seem to me to be a good place. Much of my presentation overlapped Mr. Major, so I'm not going to, again, repeat anything that he said. But other than touching on the fact that the NEC will most certainly require traffic studies in terms of whether or not that this would be permitted, and the farmers and agricultural interest groups would be, their rights would almost certainly supersede the rights to a recreational area in any event. So even if that process was started, I think the number of affected interest groups would ultimately succeed, at least that's my view, at the NEC level. And it's particularly important to keep in mind that that road is not in, there's 3 levels of escarpment protection. Escarpment natural, which is the most protected, escarpment protected, and escarpment rural. That hill lies on escarpment protected, mid-range group, the mid-range grouping, and I've just brought my handy-dandy Niagara escarpment plan here, both volumes of it, and the permitted uses in escarpment protected are, they do permit recreational use oriented toward the land with minimal interference, but here's the kicker. It is only in non-prime agricultural areas and non-specialty crop areas. Otherwise, in those areas, again, you're done before you get started. I can't think of any area in Pelham that has more specialty crops and more high-value agriculture than that particular road. Here's another thing to consider. My research into the municipal right-of-ways indicates that Overholt's a given road. Not only that, it's a 40-foot given road, not a 66-foot given road. Now we're talking for any kind of parking facilities, waste facilities. Now we have to talk about expropriating land from the adjoining farmers. How many on town council want to get that process underway? To expropriate farmers' land on each side of the hill. I don't think that's going very far. So we've got attended cost, taxpayer funds being expended on that process, and at the end, I don't think success. So, again, my presentation is pretty short and sweet tonight. It could have been said better by Mr. Major earlier on, but I want to leave the town with this thought. It's not a threat because it's simply something to consider, and lawyers are paid to consider inevitables. This is a situation where lawsuits from affected stakeholders will be inevitable. Not only that, it won't be a class action. Many affected stakeholders will have individual damage claims that will not be rolled into a single action. And rest assured, if the town makes this decision, there will be damage claims. I cannot envision a situation where it will not occur. Now, for the greatest respect to the deputy mayor, I'm not sure that the group here appreciated, and again, with the greatest respect, the non-answer. The non-answer you gave earlier was this meeting was not to vote on the proposal, but to simply adjourn the proposal. I know I'm paraphrasing it. What I think everybody's wanting to hear tonight is a motion by the council which says, we'll consider the proposal provided it doesn't involve the closure of Overholt Road. And I think everybody would agree that that's the minimum they want to see out of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dayball, for your presentation. I wonder if any members of council have any questions for Mr. Dayball. Councillor Clark?
Again, with respect, Mr. Dayball, there's and this is, will end up as a question. I'll put a question mark at the end of it, okay? There has been a great deal of confusion and misunderstanding through this entire process. The three presenters that have made presentations tonight know more about something that I know nothing about tonight. All these recommendations on this issue sheet were not done, as far as I'm concerned as a councillor, by council. I was not at that meeting. And there were other councillors, I'm not going to point out who was or was not there. Nowhere in my mind, anywhere, did I ever think, want, or consider closing any street in Pelham. And now to be painted with that, I would like an explanation as to why this is so far out of shape and that I'm being painted with a brush that wants to close a street in town when we've not even talked about it.
Councillor, this is a time for questions for the presenter.
Okay.
Do you have a question for the presenter?
My question is, at the end of it all, is where do you get the impression that myself as a councillor, and you singled me out, that I am of the mind, and I have made made that statement that I was in favor, and I'm not even going to say it because I don't want to be quoted it, but where did you get the impression that I actually made that statement?
Well, that wasn't the question I put to you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
What was your question,
It was
sir?
simply, I think most of the room here had an issue with your non-answer earlier. which
Earlier
was-
tonight or earlier
tonight, or
with the
your
press?
non-question or your non-answer, which is simply to, basically, I'm going to be colloquial here. It's basically passing the buck off to a future meeting, but it doesn't address the issue that everybody is here for, which is to get rid of this frankly ridiculous idea to close Overholt Road. Nobody is against longboarders, but when the only explanation that I can have for it is, I guess the press just took the comments and ran with them. And it upset everybody in the community because the general impression from everybody in this room is it's a fait accompli and it's going to be a done deal at this meeting. And if everybody I don't think there's anybody in this room, I know I can't call for a vote, but I don't think there's anybody in this room that wasn't expecting some sort of an answer, yes or no, here tonight. We only sort of got wind of the fact that council was going to defer the decision basically today.
Okay. Well, if I could
So
ask you another
we're
question.
mistaken, if we're all mistaken, with respect, that's a communication problem from the town, not from the town's people.
Somebody had to say that. Thank you. That I feel that has been a huge communication problem. That I just got to regroup here for a second.
Questions for Mr. Dayball? I know that there's another counselor.
I'm not finished.
Okay. I'm encouraging you along.
Yes. The question was, to you, is there a document? Is there a conversation other than the media that came from this building that led you to believe that Overholt was to be, and again, I'm not going to say it.
What I'm basing probably 90% of my feelings about this is what probably 90% of the rest of the room is basing their feelings on. When you see articles appear in the St. Catharines Standard, Niagara this week, that treat the mayor's committee, where there was, I understand, one affected stakeholder other than longboarders present, as the defining debate on this issue, which was going to result in everybody's mind in a vote to close Overholt Road. I mean, let's get real for a second. Do you think that if people didn't want to come up and have a show of force, do you think that, how many people do you think actually thought tonight that there wasn't a significant probability that council was going to vote to close Overholt Road tonight? We wouldn't have this crowd here if people didn't think that. And in my 54 years of living in this community, granted, I live out in the sticks, but I have contact with a lot of rural people. I've never seen the rural community in Pelham mobilize like I have on this issue. It's unbelievable, the response. The volunteers that have been out on Overholt, the traffic counts, the community door-to-door canvassing. It's inflamed passions like nothing I can remember in the town. And again, I don't hear anybody saying in my day-to-day life, we hate longboarders. We just hate the methodology that's been used, or we're just fearful of the methodology that's been used to what most people are believing is ramming this road closure through when it is such a vital arterial lifeblood to so many people in the community. If that's wrong, if that's a wrong impression, and there's going to be if there's going to be other options considered, I'm going to put it to you, Councillor Clark. Why can't we have that vote tonight to explore other options other than closing Overholt Road? Is that so difficult?
No, it's not so difficult. My point to you is that, again, it's just, I am.
I guess it is difficult.
No, well, it is, because I'm not allowed to say what I would like to say. Yeah.
You guys are on the same side.
I think I am. I think I'm on the same side. I'm not in favor of.
Do you have a question, Councillor?
You know what? I'm done. That's enough.
Okay.
I'm sick.
Councillor Papp has a question. There'll be time for discussion when we look at the report, which is next following this presentation. Councillor Papp.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Dayball, thank you for your presentation. Would you, in your opinion, and those who are in support of what your presentation, where would you think, or just to help me, or maybe you answered this, where did you get the impression, or the, how can I say, maybe it's not the right word, the understanding that somehow or other we were going to actually move forward with closing Overhaul Road. And I want to explain briefly. I was at that session, okay, for 2 hours. All we talked about were options. Quite honestly, later on, this whole concept came out. So I just want to be clear so that, because there is no report other than what was done in that session. I just want to get my understanding as where you would, in your opinion, and for that matter, your colleagues and neighbors, where did you get that impression? From the media itself?
I got it from the media, but more importantly, I got it from the minutes that were kept at the meeting.
Of the
Perhaps-
problem-solving
and
session?
Perhaps,
Yeah.
I'm reading a different set of minutes than you are. Because in that set of minutes that
Yeah.
I read, it came across as nothing other than a fait accompli. It revolved around how to minimize the damage for closing Overhaul Road. I don't know. Maybe my reading comprehension is not as good as yours, but I didn't see
Point of
any
order.
other-
Mr. Dayball, don't question my ability to understand things. If you want to throw something at me, I'll listen to you. All right?
Order, please. Order,
All I
please.
asked you was a simple question, and I'm more than willing to listen to it.
Counselor Pat, may I interject?
Sure.
Oh,
I want to hear Mr. Dayball's
Major,
question.
please, you already had ample time. Please, can you please take your seat? Mr. Dayball's, thank you very much. I'd like to have some decorum here.
That was
It's
not-
now,
that was not meant
Mr.
to
Dayball,
dislike.
it is now trailing into dangerous territory. I would
Right,
ask that
that's
you
correct.
respond very, very quickly, and I'd like to move on. Mr. Dayball.
I probably shouldn't have phrased it like that. But I think that shows the level of emotion in this room.
I understand.
So my apologies for that
Thank you.
phraseology, but it doesn't change the content of what I said.
Thank you.
One
That's-
reads that report, it comes across as a complete fait accompli
Okay.
that the town is in support of closing this road. Why discuss all of the mechanics and all of the methodology of closing it if that wasn't the outcome of that meeting? More importantly, I was unable to find any alternative other than closing Overholt Road in that
Granted.
meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
you.
Councillor Durley has a question?
Just actually a point of clarification. The word minutes were used to describe what was reported. That was not an official meeting. As mentioned before, there was no quorum of council. It was a session of the process for our creative problem solving. Actually, what was reported wrongly as a solution was in fact some ideas. And in fact, the process of creative problem solving goes far beyond that. There's 8 steps in it. This is about step 3. So in fact, the word minutes is not true. We did, that was not a resolution. That was not a recommendation. That is not something that was compelled to be voted upon. That was merely a fact-finding mission, an idea-finding, an idea-creating session, and it was wrongly put out. So, in fact, this was a clarification. At no time was I notified of that. I saw at the same time you did. It was a newspaper, and I thought, wow, you know, and therein lies some of the misunderstanding that has happened here.
Okay, thank you, councillors. Any other questions for our
Thank you,
presenter?
Councillor Senator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dayball. Appreciate that. I have a motion from Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Durley, that the information presented by the following delegations regarding the potential closure of Overholt Road be received. J. Douglas Major, Isaac Harley, Lee Dayball, and the information contained therein be included with the creative problem-solving session anticipated as part of the staff report on longboarding safety, should one be so directed. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Again, thank you very much for the presentations. The next item of business is the consideration of the report. It has been moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Durley. The council received the report listed as agenda item 1429, longboarding safety, and the recommendation contained therein be approved as follows. That the creative problem session report regarding how might we work with the community to ensure the safety of youth longboarding on municipal streets be received for information, and that staff be directed to schedule and hold a creative problem-solving session that will include all the stakeholders, including staff from the town's Recreation, Wellness, and Culture and Wellness Department, the town's fire chief, bylaw officer, planner, insurance representative, members of the Niagara Regional Police, a consultant from New Line Skateboard Company, which is the company that's building the skate park, and from the broader community, and that this session be held within the next 3 weeks, and a report summarizing the results of the session be presented to council on September 16th, 2013. Is there any discussion regarding this report? Councillor Papp.
Mr. Mayor, with respect to that report, I will move that an amendment be made to the report that would include that none of those options would include the closure of Overholt Road.
Councillor Durley will second that. Any discussion regarding that amendment? Councillor Clark?
Did we make sure that we take the extra steps, step 5 feet away from our desks, and make sure that any information that comes out of this is crystal clear so we don't have to go through this again?
Agreed.
Please.
Thank you, Councillor.
Is that loud
Others?
enough?
I'm going to call the amendment. The amendment reads, Madam Clerk.
Moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Durley, that the motion also include the phrase that none of the options include the closure of Overholt Road.
Any further discussion regarding that? Councillor Ribbiak.
Mayor, just looking ahead, perhaps unnecessarily, maybe it's not just Overholt Road. Maybe it's any road.
Okay. So, I offer a friendly amendment to. I'll take
to
it as an amendment. So I would take it as, not as a friendly amendment, but as an amendment, so that none of the options include the closure of any roads in Pelham. Is that what your amendment would be? Okay, thank you.
For this purpose, that's right.
Yep. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor King. So now to the amendment to the amendment. Any comments? No. Going to call the question on that amendment.
Councillor Kersey is.
Councillor Kersey, do you want to speak to?
Mr. Mayor, does that include temporary closures for holding of skateboard competitions, etc.? Is that all inclusive?
Thank you.
Because it's very broad in its scope and may limit some of the options that may be explored that may present a solution to the problem.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ribbiak?
Thank you. Councillor Kersey makes a very good point. I think I meant permanent closures.
Okay, so none of the option include the permanent closure of any Pelham roads. Councillor Kersey?
That makes more sense, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions to the amendment? No. Going to call the question on the amendment. All those in favor? Any opposed? That amendment is carried. Now to the amended amendment. I know that Councillor Ribbiak was speaking. Councillor Kersey, did you want to speak to it? I saw your hand there. To the amendment itself, which is that none of the options include the permanent closure of any town roads?
No, Mr. Mayor. I think putting in permanent closure is sufficient. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any others? There being none, I call the question on the amended amendment. All those in favor? Any opposed? That amendment is carried. Now to the main motion as amended. Is there any further discussion to the matter? Then I call the question on the motion as amended. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion as amended is carried. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your involvement this evening and for the presentations, and for each of you being here. We should probably take a brief recess before we continue with our proceedings, so that you can leave in an orderly fashion. Thank you very much.
Chair staying for the rest of the meeting, or?
Oh, yeah.
Meeting?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to lift 11.3.7.4, specifically the City of Port Colborne initiative regarding the dementia care strategy.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Any others? Other members? Okay, so it has been moved by Councillor Durley, second by Councillor King, that the following consent agenda items be received and approved. Resolutions of Committee of the Whole of July 15th and the rescheduled committee of the whole for July 22nd, minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of the same, of July 15th, and minutes of July 22nd. Information correspondence. David C. Onley, Lieutenant Governor of Ontario. The Ontario Sport and Recreation Communities Fund, Grants Ontario. Thank you from the Tosher family. McMaster University Health Sciences, thank you. And a rate application information from Enbridge Gas Distribution. We also have a number of reports, and I mentioned them, one of them earlier, from the Regional Municipality of Niagara. There are 5. The first is the final notice of some urban boundary modifications in the town of Pelham, which were minor in nature. The second, regarding the Sawmill Golf Course practice facility. The third, age-friendly community final report from the age-friendly initiative. That was 3 years in the region. The fourth, watercourse mapping project that Councillor Beatty spoke of. The fifth, results of economic impact assessment of Niagara's cultural sector. And then we have 3 resolutions from other municipalities, including the town of Fort Erie regarding their hospital contribution, the city of Thorold regarding via rail reductions to passenger service, and the city of Halton regarding the Enbridge Line 9 reversal. We have some committee minutes, and they include the Summerfest Committee from July 10th and July 17th. And we have several items, I think it's 44 in total, of correspondence regarding skateboarding, longboarding, and they include 2 petitions, one regarding skateboarding on Donahue Drive, and the second petition regarding skateboarding as transportation. A letter from Mr. B. Law, Mr. Hill, M. Hurst, R. Cardinelli, P. Elvis, J. and K. Williams, A. and J. Carner, R. Kozab, R. K. Steingret, K. Hurst, Dr. H. J. and J. Vendat, R. Culliford, T. Wilkes, B. Bedard, R. D. Pietro, E. B. Carlone, D. Cook, S. Cook, Dr. R. Carlone, F. Ignatius, R. and P. Watson, S. and C. Crow, M. and B. Lamb, A. and C. Kilbore, A. Lees, V. Hewitt Simpson, E. and B. Burgess, C. Haywood, A. Filbert, R. Hill, A. Carner, D. Balchus, S. Minor, G. Dupuis, S. Fairburn, R. Cardinelli, J. Sawatsky, T. Campbell, M. Irving, C. Young, J. O'Donnell, and Star Tile. Lots of correspondence there. Questions, comments from any members of council on any of those items? Councillor Ribbiak. And then I see you, Councillor Kersey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question really for information and not for any other purpose. In 11361, notice of final approval, urban area boundary modifications for Font Hill. And I see that in the actual correspondence, it has to do with urban area boundary modifications for Font Hill within the letter from the region as well. Is there any particular reason why it's identified as Font Hill and not Pelham? Is the region...
I can answer that because there's an urban area boundary in Font Hill and there's one for Fenwick. I don't believe there's any others. There's a hamlet boundary in North Pelham, but that's why I believe it's Font Hill and not Pelham.
Yeah. Now that you mention it that way, it becomes clear to me as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Others to that matter? Okay, Councillor Kersey, you had an item or two?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to speak very briefly to 11.3.6.5. This is the report speaking specifically about the economic impact assessment of the cultural sector.
Yes.
And I just wanted to highlight the fact that even though this sector, and it says this in the report, lacks investment, it lacks facilities, and it's complicated because of the size of the Niagara region. It still provides 13,000 jobs and $300 million plus to our economy in Niagara. And I think it speaks loud and long to our economic development undertakings in the future. It's something that we need to be very cognizant of, and how much of a role that the cultural infrastructure that we have in our community can play economically for us. And so, not to belabor the point, I just want to make sure that we are all aware of the fact that culture can play a significant economic role in our community. We do not have industry per se, and perhaps our industry in the future will be culture. And we will not be constrained by the large area of Niagara, particularly if we develop a Pelham only or Pelham specific cultural economy.
Thank you very much.
That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor, for raising that matter and for highlighting that. Any other members regarding that particular report? Okay, there's Councillor Papp to that report.
Just picking up, thank you, Councillor Kersey, very quickly, that we include this as part of our reference material for our ongoing discussions with economic development in the town of Pelham.
Okay, thank you. That's a good idea to include that, and I think that's some of the items that we spoke about in that.
Yep.
So thank you for highlighting that, and that can be considered when we move forward with that in September. Thank you. Any others? Any other items that councillors would like to refer to on the block agenda? I just want to highlight quickly a couple of things. It's nice to receive the correspondence from the Lieutenant Governor of Ontario. Looking forward to a visit. It was unfortunate that he was unable to make a visit when he had requested one, and we are certainly amenable to that. So we look forward to that being rescheduled. And also, I read a lot of the names. There's a lot of correspondence there, and I know that we dealt with the issue. There's a lot of thought that individuals have put forward in that. It wasn't just specific to a road closure or road closures, but there's some really good ideas in there for trying to get to the issue of working together with long borders and keeping long borders safe and keeping the community safe. So I don't know if, I'm sure council will think about that as the creative problem-solving process that we just approved will move forward. But I wanted to acknowledge that took a lot of effort for people and a lot of thought into it. And the emails continue to come in today, and I'm sure they will in the future. But I wanted to acknowledge that and thank those individuals for coming forward with their ideas and with their suggestions and with their passion for our community. Any other comments on any of those items? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. And now, Councillor Kersey, you raised one item of correspondence regarding the City of Port Colborne. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion that the town of Pelham support the and endorse the motion that was passed recently by the City of Port Colborne, which basically supported the actions of our federal parliamentarian, as well as I forget the name of the community in the north. But I would like to make a motion that we endorse and support the motion put forward by Port Colborne.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Papp. So it has been moved that communication item 11374 be received and that the resolution contained therein passed by the Council of the City of Port Colborne regarding the National Dementia Care Strategy be endorsed and supported, and that this resolution be forwarded to the parties listed on the City of Port Colborne's correspondence. Any other further comments regarding that? Councillor Papp?
Thank you, Councillor Kersey, and very, like I say, your timing couldn't be better. Today's Toronto Star, August 12th. On the Life section, there's a front-page article about dementia and how we're losing the war on it. And Dr. Greenberg from the U.S., who has estimated that by the time today we have 7.75 people suffering from dementia, and within 20 years we'll have 14 million people. And he said there is a strategy, couldn't come any quicker or sooner.
Thank you very much, Councillor, for highlighting that. Any further? Councillor Rivyak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In addition to those copied on the correspondence from the City of Port Colborne, perhaps we can add our MP as well.
Okay, thank you.
Good one.
I'm going to take that as, if it's not there, I'll take that as a friendly amendment, so.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. You're fine with that?
Yes.
Mr. Allison as our MP. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Papp, you're fine with that? Yeah.
I'm good
Okay.
with that, that's fine.
Any other comments? There being none, I call the question on that. Support and endorse. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you, Councillor, for highlighting that. Next, we move to presentation consideration of correspondence requiring action. The first has been received. It's been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Durley, that the correspondence from Gary and Shirley White outlining their concerns with regard to drainage problems in the Beckett Crescent area be received and referred to staff for review and report at the next regular meeting of council scheduled for September 3rd, 2013. Discussion? Pleased to see and look forward to the report. Going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. The next item has been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Durley. The correspondence submitted by the East Fenwick Secondary Plan area landowners requesting that the secondary plan work move forward be received and referred to staff for review and report at a future September council meeting. Discussion regarding this matter? I just have a question about the timing. The letters listed as April, and we're not getting receipt of this. I know it went to the CAO, receipt of this until now. Does anyone have an answer for the timing? No? Good to receive this. I understood the request is that the town proceed with the secondary plan, and I'm just wondering if that's how staff read it as well. Mr. Tavasoli?
We are studying it.
You're studying
at
it?
this point. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very new for us. I couldn't find any information other than a letter that was attached to the agenda. So we are working on it. If you have any information or file that could be forwarded to us, we will be in a better position for next time.
Okay.
To answer the
I'm sure that'll
Thank you.
get figured out and come to us in September. There's likely our second meeting. So, okay, look forward to that. Going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. The next item is reports from members of council. I do have three quick reports, and I thank you for adding the one at last moment. The first is regarding Lookout Point Country Club. They hosted the PGA of Canada Seniors Final, and that was from August 6th to August 9th, 2013. Congratulations to the board members, the staff at Lookout Point for hosting a very successful tournament. It began with practice rounds on Tuesday, August 6th, and a Pro-Am in the afternoon. It was my pleasure to actually participate in the Pro-Am with Dean Allison, our Member of Parliament, Barry Sharp, the Mayor of Welland, and Rich Marlino, our host, who's the General Manager at Lookout. We also played with a pro, Ray Stewart, who was from Abbotsford, BC, and he was a great player and a real gentleman. He didn't comment too much about my golf game. And in the end, I noted at the end of the tournament that he actually tied for 9th place with 4 over. I want to thank Lookout for hosting me. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday were tournament play, very exciting. Final on Friday afternoon. You couldn't have asked for any different completion on this. It was between Ron Spittle, who's a hometown favorite, and Jim Rutledge, the 2012 champion. They tied coming into the final, to the 18th, with 7 under par, and had to battle it out for 4 extra holes, and the crowd would move from hole 18 back to 1 to 18 and back before Rutledge sneaked in a birdie for the win on the 1. So the course was in excellent shape, and the greens were very, very challenging, as is exemplified by the scores. Lookout actually made mention of borrowing the town's bleachers for spectators and thanked us. So thank you to staff for organizing that. They were well used at the tournament, especially on Thursday, Friday, when there was a lot of excitement about the tournament. Congratulations again to board members and staff at Lookout for hosting an excellent PGA event. My next item is a visit from the Zimbabwean ambassador Chidaya, which took place on Friday, August 10th. Along with Dean Allison MP, it was my pleasure and honor to welcome Ambassador Florence Zano Chidaya from the Embassy of Zimbabwe to Pelham. Ambassador Chidaya was visiting artists in residence, Jonathan Mojuhara and Tawana Serrani, at Hamilton's of Pelham shop in Ridgeville. The beautiful sculptures which are in their back garden were highlighted along with food and music from Zimbabwe. The ambassador said that the stone sculpture is deeply embedded in the lives of Zimbabweans, and that when viewing the sculptures in the garden, she encouraged us to imagine that we were seeing Zimbabwe. Very, very excellent sculptures, and I would encourage all members of council and the community to take a look at that. I know that Jonathan, who is a world-renowned artist, has been carving in Pelham for 3 weeks, and he'll continue to be available for another couple of weeks, so the timing is of the essence. On behalf of council and the community, I presented the ambassador and the carvers with some items from Pelham, some maple syrup and products from White Meadows, some wine and ice wine from Henry of Pelham, and the new Town of Pelham T-shirts with our new logo on that. So congratulations and thank you. Congratulations to Hamiltons of Pelham, and also thank you very much to the ambassador for visiting our community. The final report is about the deputy mayor rotation, which will occur on September 1st, 2013. Rest assured, this has nothing to do with somebody on a rotisserie and a barbecue. This is, as council knows, we agreed to rotate the duties and responsibilities of the deputy mayor. Councillor Clark has been serving as the deputy mayor since mid-January, and I thank you for your service. Councillor Kersey, you will begin your service on September 1st, and that will go until mid-April 2014. So I look forward to your service as deputy mayor. Those are my reports. Thank you to council, and now Councillor Durley has a report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had the distinct pleasure and honor to attend the celebration of the 100th birthday of Molly Rogers, held at Short Hills Villa on Saturday, July 27th. Representing the mayor and town council, I was honored to present Molly with a commemorative frame certificate from the caring, creative, and vibrant town of Pelham, along with a beautiful bouquet of flowers to the lovely Molly Rogers. The magnificent gala, organized by her two daughters, Shirley Lazarus and Margaret Reed, highlighted the life of Molly, with short speeches made by grandchildren and other family members, including photos to illustrate and emphasize the excellent quality of life that Molly did enjoy. Entertainment was provided by two very talented young folks, and a grand time was enjoyed by all. I join the town council and the collective community in wishing Molly congratulations on the birthday and wish her many more years of happy, healthy, and safe life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor, for representing council and the community at that event, and congratulations to Molly. Yes.
Addendum that we added.
Okay.
The letter from.
Thank you. The clerk has just indicated that we have an item that we added, and I missed it as I went through correspondence. And it's just simply to receive, is that correct?
Receive and refer to staff for report.
Okay. So we're looking for that item of correspondence from Pam.
This is the item that was moved, Pamela Hall and Kenneth Mado.
Pamela Hall.
So if we could just have a motion to receive and refer it to staff. It was the addendum item.
Thank you, thank you. So as addenda item, the staff are recommending that we receive it and refer it to staff for report. It is relating to an item on the agenda this evening. I'm not sure what the report will say, but so is there a mover for at least receipt and refer to staff? Councillor King? Okay, is there a seconder for that? Councillor Papp? Any discussion regarding that correspondence?
Well, just, we'll deal with it with, when the, your staff report comes up with
Okay.
respect to Lookout.
Thank you. Going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you, Madam Clerk. And now we move to staff reports requiring action. The first is regarding a Seniors Advisory Committee, and I see some members of the public here who have dealt with that. It has been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Durley, that the staff report Pelham Seniors Advisory Committee draft terms of reference be received, and the council approve the establishment of a Pelham Seniors Advisory Committee, and the council approve the terms of reference as prepared for the said committee, and that the clerk be directed to advertise for the membership of that committee. Comments or questions? I did mention that two members are here, so that's Joe Bouchard and Gail Hillier, who made presentation to us almost a year ago. Thank you very much for your patience and tenacity. I know that you've been meeting a couple of times with our director. It's great to see this finally coming together. Any members of council want to comment at this point? And also the name. I think when you made the presentation, there was discussion, other communities talked about age-friendly. This is Seniors Advisory Committee, which is a bit broader. And maybe I'm going to ask the director a question. Why is it not an age-friendly advisory committee that's before us, but rather a seniors-friendly advisory committee? Or Seniors Advisory Committee, pardon me. Director?
That's right. Through you. We discussed this, and it will take into effect all of the age-friendly aspects, but it's broader, similar to our Mayor's Youth Advisory Council as well.
Okay, thank you. And it will be reporting to council, the minutes will come, et cetera?
Correct.
And as I saw, if there's any resolutions from that group, they'll come to council in a separate letter. Okay, thank you. Others? Councillor Durley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended an age-friendly seminar in Welland at the along the canal there, and I think Gail and Joe both were there, and it was very informative, and I know that they have set up a network so all the information that other groups can be shared, and congratulations on that. I look forward to this really being a successful committee.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Others? Councillor Papp?
Just very quickly, I'm looking forward to this as well. I guess, are we going to advertise first for the membership and then appoint the person from council afterwards?
I think that's what was
Is that
envisioned.
the idea?
I think members of
Is that the
council
idea?
can, Madam Clerk?
Okay, that's all I need
Is
to
that
know.
what normally happens?
Yes.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay,
I'm
thank you
good.
very much.
That's included in the motion.
And, yes. Councillor Kersey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a brief question. I just wondered what the logic was in having the councillor that sits on this committee as basically ex officio and not having any voting rights.
Thank you. Who can answer that? The clerk or director?
Well, we discussed that, and it was felt that having the odd number of members as well as, that was the main reason. Some of the committees that we do have, they do vote.
Thank you. Councillor, I would, you think of some of the other advisory committees. Some of the committees that we have are more active committees, like the Beautification Committee, which you're involved in extensively. But others, like the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, I'm just there, and staff are just there in an advisory capacity. The voting occurs with the members of that group. So I think that's as complete an answer as you're going to get. Go ahead, Councillor.
Okay, that's fine. I just wondered what the logic there was, whether it was a perceived conflict of interest or what have you if a matter came to council. So essentially the role of the councillor will be to act as a liaison in that particular instance.
Ms. Van Ravensway?
That's correct.
That's correct, Councillor.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I will note that, that the committee also, membership does include members of the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, who have actually said over the years that they wanted to have more interaction with seniors in the community and other members of the community. So it looks like a very good group, as well as members of the community at large. Any further comments, questions regarding the establishment of the committee? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you again to staff for putting the report together, but most importantly to Joe and Gail and others who were involved in this. Thank you so much. We look forward to the committee formulating. Thank you. The next item is the Wheeland Heights, but that has been lifted. So the next item is 1423. It has been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Durley. The council received the issue sheet removal of the fixed holding H provision for zoning of the lands for residences at Lookout subdivision file number 26T1902-005, part of lots 2 and 3 and part of road allowance between lots 2 and 3, concession 7, town of Pelham. And further, the council consider the zoning amendment application file AM05-2013 and the associated bylaw that has been presented on this evening's agenda. Comments, questions regarding this matter? Councillor Papp?
In light of this I guess we're removing the holding provision, and I guess through you, Madam CA or Madam Planner, in light of the letter that we received, I'm a little confused. Or there's no need to be confused that this is perfectly within our jurisdiction to proceed with this? And we are in compliance with what we agreed to way back. And I know you're relatively new to it, but I mean, I know that we had quite a discussion, Madam Planner, about this over months and months and months. So if it can be resolved with the letter that we received tonight, then so be it.
Ms. Tavasoli?
Yes, I can answer to that.
Can you please just stand so we can hear you?
Oh, sorry. I have a discussion with one of the residents that raised that point, that the holding is nothing to do, removing that holding, nothing to do with their concern. Their concern was regarding the previous action.
Right.
That was, they had 20 days to come forward with their issues. They missed that, and the agreement was almost ready to be signed. We are still waiting for a couple of papers that's from other authority to be able to take care of that action. The holding is basically with respect to our town's issues, that we put the holding on that piece of properties, and at this point we have no concern or no issues to keep that holding on the property. The only things that those four residents has, it was kind of confusion between that they can come forward and stop this subdivision to go forward.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Director.
Thank you.
That is helpful. So basically, the developer has met all the provisions of what we had discussed with them with respect to the holding provision, and we can therefore remove it and let them move forward. Is that basically it, Director?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kersey?
Forgive me if I'm repeating something the director has already said. I didn't clearly hear everything that she said. However, since I was the one that put forward the idea that was referred to in the letter, if you recall, during the course of our discussions with the developer and subsequent reports that we received from staff, it was we were advised prior to us accepting the plan of subdivision with the smaller lots that the risk was that if we allowed the plan of subdivision to lapse, the developer would be free and clear then to bring a new plan of subdivision under the new guidelines of the province, and that would in fact increase the density even beyond what they are currently proposing. So at that point, I think when council considered it, we elected that we would opt for the less dense subdivision, fearing the risk that the developer might in fact allow the whole thing to lapse and then come back with under the new provincial policy plan.
Thank you, Councillor. That's right. And I see a number of heads around the council table nodding that that's how we remembered as well, and that was approved in last December. So,
right.
Thank you. Anyone else?
That's right. Okay.
Okay. There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. The next item has been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Durley. The council receive issue summary report regarding the execution of a subdivision agreement for draft plan of subdivision application 26T19-12001 Rittenhouse Estates. There's lots of numbers here. 937776 Ontario Inc. M&J Homes, Mike Cassani, part of Lot 177, former Township of Thorold, Town of Pelham. The council approved the street names recommended, and further, the council considers the bylaw for the extension of a subdivision agreement and street name for the draft plan of subdivision for this plan. Questions, comments? No. Nice to see this moving forward as well. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. The next item has been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Durley. The council received the issue sheet erection of a wall sign for the Village Yogi, and that the application for sign variance for a business known as the Village Yogi at the properly known municipally as 1419 Pelham Street be approved in accordance with the drawings submitted with the application. Questions, comments, amendments? Oh, Councillor Kersey?
Merely a comment, Mr. Mayor. Perhaps this points, and the next item as well, point to the fact that we need to perhaps give consideration to amending the bylaw, specifically addressing those buildings that front, even though it's a back, onto a major thoroughfare and where there are rear entrances for businesses. Because as it stands now, these businesses, even though they front on a different road, are forced to come to council for an amendment and thereby increasing their costs for signs. So I think it's something that we need to look at in general as opposed to specifically.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. I think the correspondence speaks to that in terms of that this particular sign was just going over where an existing sign was. Would you like to make a motion that we direct staff to come forward with a recommendation to amend the sign bylaw in this way?
I'd very much like to make that motion.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that? I saw Councillor Ribbiak. So that and that we direct staff to come forward with options to amend the bylaw to deal with properties that have multiple faces or multiple sides. Is that essentially capturing what you put forward, Councillor?
I think that's fine, yes.
Okay.
Question, please?
More than one building face. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Clark has a question.
If we're going to reopen the sign situation, issue, whatever you want to call it, let's make sure we do it right from the start, and we contact the chamber, the PBA, local businesses, and it wouldn't even hurt to knock on the doors of the people that own those buildings. Can that be added to that? That we include those people in those discussions? So we don't go through another meeting session tonight?
It can be added. How,
have that added, please. Consult with the PBA, the Chamber of Commerce, like we did the last time with the sign bylaw.
Okay. And then we direct.
That's even if we're going to reopen it. Are we going to open that?
Councillor Clark, you can put forward an amendment to the amendment.
Okay.
That would include that we direct staff to have discussions with the Pelham Business Association, the Chamber of Commerce, and affected property owners. Is that what you're putting forward?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Papp, you'll second that amendment? To that amendment? Councillor Durley?
Just one concern, this appears to be a specific issue that is being brought forward rather than a general thing, and we're not opening up the whole sign bylaw. My understanding is we're looking at situations that are particular to multi-face buildings, which in fact is not something that is in general affecting the sign bylaw. It is affecting some specific property. So I'm not sure that by bringing all of these players back on board, we're not reopening the whole bylaw. It's just a matter of a specific application to a specific situation which exists specifically in an isolated number of cases. So that's just my thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to comment on that, Councillor?
I can see where Councillor Durley's going with that, but are we certain that those are the only buildings, the buildings downtown? Are there other buildings?
Okay. Councillor?
Yeah, I don't know. Councillor Kersey has his hand up there as well. So.
Councillor Kersey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would agree with Councillor Durley, and with all due respect to Councillor Clark, I think this is a very specific item. I don't think we need to involve the PBA and the chamber. I'm specifically looking at a situation here where the building fronts on two streets. And has main entrances to businesses on two streets, and I think we need to make some allowance within the bylaw to prevent this sort of measure having to be brought to council and for the business to incur additional costs. So I think to go ahead and convene a meeting with the PBA and the chamber and what have you, I think it can be handled in-house very neatly and in a timely manner as opposed to trying to convene meetings, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay,
So
thank you.
I would not support the amendment to the amendment.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Others to the amendment to the amendment? Councillor Clark?
I just have a comment. I'm not sure if this is the correct time or not, but if we're going to change a sign bylaw, we should at least contact the people that own these buildings that we're talking about.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Any further comments? I'm going to call the question on the amendment to the amendment, and that is,
Excuse me,
and that, Councillor?
Are we still discussing who we're going to contact or not? Or has that been, are we finished with that?
Your motion is that we direct staff to discuss this particular issue, multi-phase properties, signs on multi-phase properties, I guess is the wording, with the PBA, the chamber, and affected property owners. Okay? I'm going to call the question on that amendment. All those in favor? Any opposed? That amendment to the amendment is carried. And now to the amendment that we direct staff to come forward with draft amendments. I only have draft wording here because I scribbled it down. The clerk has the correct wording to better address multi-phase properties and direct staff to discuss it with the PBA and chamber and affected property owners. Any further discussion regarding that amendment?
As amended.
As amended. All those in favor? Any opposed? That amendment is carried. And now to the main motion as amended. Any further discussion? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried as amended. Thank you. It has been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Rubiak, that the issue sheet installation of a wall sign at San Marcos Italiano be received and that the application for sign variance be approved as per the drawing and specification information included with the application. Any discussion regarding this particular application? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. The next item has been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Gurley. The Council received the issue sheet Highway 20 Sidewalk Extension and that the recommendations contained therein be approved as follows. The Council approved the redirection of the surplus budget allocation for the town share of the Highway 20 storm sewer replacement to the construction of the sidewalks on Highway 20 between Park Lane and Pinecrest on the north side of the street and on the south side of the street between Camborough Road and Churchill, and be included as part of the Highway 20 storm sewer replacement project. Any discussion regarding this matter? Councillor Ribiak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for clarification, or perhaps just to remind me, I think these projects we were planning on doing anyway. This really affects timing, and of course it allows us to take advantage of the cost saving to do it now. Am I correct in that assumption?
Mr. Mantle?
That is correct.
You are correct.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And I think we didn't have the money, but now, as a result of some cost savings, we do, so.
We're planning to have those sidewalks in any
I think
case.
it was
This is not a new item on the budget. This is advancing it, perhaps?
It's an advancement. We discussed that as part of the skate park project.
Thank you. And the timing, Mr. Mantle, it will occur this fall, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried, and we look forward to that construction to have more sidewalks included in the town. The next item has been moved by Councillor Durley, seconded by Councillor King. The Council received the issue sheet Municipal Heritage Register, and that the recommendation contained therein be approved as follows. That for reasons outlined in the issue sheet Municipal Register, Council directs staff to create a municipal register and to make arrangements to host an open house during the week of September 16th, 2013 for affected properties. Any discussion regarding this matter? Councillor Durley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The committee has worked very hard in putting this together, and they've done an excellent job on it. As we did see, there's a photograph and a couple of comments about the properties. It in no way affects any property values. This is the important thing to understand right now, and in fact, it is just a means by which properties that may have some significance can be identified. The next step will go from that to possibly registering properties. However, that is not the case now. The piece that they really want to do, and with this open house, is to have an information education session to explain exactly what this is and to let the people know if there is going to be an effect, how it may affect, and answer any questions on it. So in fact, it is an important educational element to bringing this forward, and it's a perfect foundation to build the whole thing on. And I think they're moving really in a very good direction, and they're doing it very effectively, and I think it's the best way to go, and I give them credit. They did a lot of work, and they did an excellent job.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Durley, for your work, and please pass along our thanks to that committee. Any other comments or questions regarding this motion?
I just have
Tavasoli, go ahead.
Yes, I just have a comment here. And we mentioned that Town's Heritage Committee. I need to clarify that as Town of Pelham Heritage Committee. So that's the full name. So we don't have anything as Town's Heritage Committee, and we need to put the name in front of it.
Thank you.
If there's any issue on that, please.
I don't, the clerks just advised me that there is not an issue with that. It's not in the motion itself. It's in the report, and perhaps maybe that can be changed in the report so that's clarified. Thank you for that. I think, Councillor Durley speaks about the idea for an open house and how fruitful that would be. And this report speaks to that as well. And I think communication will be extremely important in this particular matter as well, so that people don't get the wrong idea that all of a sudden something's happening to their property that they may not want, they didn't know about, etc. So I think it's an important point to consider as we move forward on this. I'm going to call the question on the matter. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried, and we look forward to that particular meeting and to hear from the community regarding that matter. Thank you. The next item has been moved by Councillor Durley, seconded by Councillor King, that the issue sheet Isaac Real Skate Park budget be received and that the recommendation contained therein be approved as follows. The council approved the use of the donated funds in the amount of $42,764.98 to fund any additional costs as outlined in this report during the construction of the Isaac Real Skate Park. Discussion? Councillor Papp?
Well, I guess it begs the obvious question, and maybe you can't answer it right now, that if in fact during our course of deliberations with respect to the longboarding, that we look at some sort of architectural design considerations in this park, which would affect costing and would affect the design. Am I being premature, or should we just, by accepting this, that's the basic skateboard park, but in fact, if they come back and say, we're willing to do something, would that be incorporated as part of that?
Ms. Van Ravensway, can you help clarify for the councillor, please? By accepting this, what is accepting this in relation to the longboarding?
The skateboard park that we are accepting right now will accommodate novice, intermediate longboarders.
Oh, okay.
We are investigating additional, like a more senior track. This does not include that.
Okay, I think I got my answer.
Okay, thank you very much. Others? Councillor Ribbiak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This refers to Isaac Real Skateboard Park budget, and the request is to move the donated money to cover things that were not looked at, I guess, in the budget as it currently exists. I don't have a sense, and maybe I'm just missing it in the letter, but I don't have a sense of what is the budget for those additional items that this money is going to go toward. Is it enough? Is it too much? Or is it more than required? Too little? I don't have a sense of of the completeness of that.
Okay, thank you. Our treasurer will speak to that. Ms. Pupo?
At the point in time of creating this report for council, in discussions with the New Line skateboard design, there were some unknowns in the soil testing that still are not available to us. They don't know the cost of the additional materials that might be needed for that, but we needed to make some provisions that if they come up with additional expenses before, as they're starting to dig, that we can cover those costs off for them. So this $42,000 would go towards that if they needed those materials. Also, in one of the meetings after the concept design was presented to the committee, the skateboard committee, it was decided that the kids really wanted the colored concrete on certain areas to make the park more vibrant in the Marlene Stewart Sharp Park area. That cost is about $10,000. There's a cost for a certain skateboard bench that the family of Isaac Rail really wanted to have as a memorial in that park. That's about $3,000. So some of those items are identified as a true expenditure that we can look at for additional landscape and landscape furniture going forward with the park. But we still are unsure of the soil and the testing and the additional cost of that. So a report in September will come back to council, which clearly outlines those costs, and then we'll dictate what we will spend the rest of the monies on so that council is made aware of that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy with that answer.
Okay, thank you very much. I do want to ask, I'm aware that, for example, somebody following this including in the media, said that they wanted to do a sculpture. Someone else contacted my office and said, and I've directed them to staff, said that they make benches and have made benches at other skate parks and they want to donate a bench. I'm also aware that a local cement company is discussing the possibility of donating some product for the skate park. So maybe, Madam Treasurer, you can tell us how those types of donations or gifts in kind will be dealt with in relation to Councilor Ribiac's question.
Yeah, at this point in time, we're in discussions with the local cement company to find out if there is donations that will come available. Obviously, that'll help with the significant reduction of cost in some of the areas, and a report will be brought back forward to council again, because there are other items in that park that could be done around the landscaping. At the committee, we talked about the walkway that attaches the pool house to the skate park area, and those kind of items that can maybe be added on to the construction part of it to just kind of finalize the the beauty of the park going forward. But at this point in time, it's unknown, those dollar values, but as I indicated previously, reports will be brought probably every 2 weeks to council just to update on the status of the donations. We are holding a session out in the park on Thursday with giving out donation receipts to individuals if they wanted to make a donation to the Isaac Rail Park as well. So we're anticipating additional funds will be coming in, and we have indicated to the committee those will be earmarked and restricted only for the use of the Isaac Rail Skateboard Park for now and any future maintenance and any future landscaping and furniture and so forth. So.
Okay, thank you. Anything further, Councilor? No? Okay. Others? I do have a question about matching funds, because this council has said that we are matching the funds of the Aviva grant and we're matching donations. So just so that I understand it, we really, I guess the council has given an upward limit of the 298 to match funds, and we're now at 143. Is that kind of the proper way to think about it?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that should the community come forward and be very, 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 very generous and get us to that 298,000, staff will come forward to us and say we might have to match additional funds, but right now that's sort of our notional limit. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I've received a couple of questions from people in the community about that. Anything further on this particular item? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried, and we look forward to that work beginning. I should have asked the timing of that work beginning. Ms. Van Ravensway?
They hope to begin the work on August the 19th.
Okay.
Staff have already started to prepare the site by removing the fencing of the ball diamond.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. We look forward to that work going forward.
Mrs. Aaron has moved up.
There is an addendum item, and I do see two members of the public that were involved in this process here. This has been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Ribbiak, that the staff issue sheet Pelham Street at Pancake Lane traffic signal investigation, traffic count warrant update, and problem-solving meeting outcomes be received, and that the recommendation contained therein be approved as follows. That the committee recommend to council that pedestrian walk signals be installed across Pelham Street at its intersection with Pancake Lane and John Street, and across Pelham Street at its intersection with Spruce Side, Crescent, and Bacon Lane, and that the shortfall of $80,500 be funded from the roads reserve. Any discussion regarding this matter? Councillor Durley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to perhaps Mr. Mannel, installing these, will that have any impact whatsoever on the proposed revitalization of Pelham Street, which is coming in the future? Will that...
I don't believe so. I think we can work within those constraints, and lay out the signals and the ductwork that goes underground stuff, materials, so that they all can match at the future time when needed.
Okay.
So it's a win-win situation that will enhance the actual moving forward with Pelham Street then. Okay.
Thank you very much. And I think the report makes mention of the fact that some of that work will occur when the sidewalk's going to be constructed. Councillor Papp, did you have something?
No, I'm...
Councillor Kersey, I see you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to commend staff on preparing a very comprehensive report to a fairly difficult and thorny issue. The problem-solving mechanism does work when we have all the owners in the room. But out of that report, there was a recommendation, and I think it not so much a recommendation, but an alternative, and I think it bears some merit for discussion and perhaps an amendment to the motion. In the report, they refer to the Fallingbrook crosswalk through to Highway or to Pelham Street, and tonight we've endorsed the subdivision agreement at Rittenhouse, which will deed a further walkway to the town to allow people to walk through and join up with the trails. So the amendment that I'm going to propose is that we direct staff to include in our 2014 capital budget a crosswalk at the Fallingbrook Pelham Street intersection, because I think that we are opening ourselves up to significant liability if we create crosswalks through to a very busy street and then not provide safe transit across that street. So that would be my amendment that I'd like to move, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Your amendment then is to direct staff to bring forward for the 2014 budget considerations a pedestrian signalized crosswalk at Fallingbrook and the Rittenhouse, as is outlined in the alternatives in the report. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder for that amendment? Somebody want to second it so we can discuss it, get it on the floor? And
Yeah.
I see there's a lot of confusion around the table, Councillor. Councillor Papp, you'll second that?
Sure, let's get it on the table.
Motion and or amendment. Councillor Durley has a map here. Councillor Papp, do you have a question?
No, I'm trying to sort it out in my... I know where Councillor Percy's going with this. I'm just trying to figure out where this, how would all...
Fallingbrook doesn't go to Pelham.
I'm familiar with this.
Yeah, Councillor Durley, we have a question?
Yeah, looking at the map here, Fallingbrook doesn't go to Pelham. It goes up. It goes up as actually joins up with Spruce Side, and then Spruce Side goes over to Pelham. So
okay, I think
that is where one of the crossings actually will be located, right?
Mr. Mannel, you did have it as one of the alternatives, alternative 2 in your report. Can you speak to that, please?
Yes, it deals with, there's a walkway that comes out from Fallingbrook to Pelham Street right now, almost across from the old Mazda dealership. And there's...
Yeah, I know your time.
Rittenhouse subdivision also has a walkway coming out to Pelham Street at its northern limit right now. So that will tie together. They almost align across from each other. So that's where the crosswalk would be.
Okay, thank you. don't know if it's on your map there, Council.
Okay, no, I recall now. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Counselor, just for clarity, with your motion, it would mean that there would be something at Pancake, something at Spruce Side, and then, I don't know how many meters it would be south of Spruce Side, not many, 150? There would be another signalized crosswalk. Is that the intention of your amendment, that there would be then those three?
Well, originally what I was going to propose was that we drop the crosswalk at Spruce Side and move it down to the crosswalk at the Fallingbrook walkthrough, but since the problem-solving method and the recommendations of the group that put their time into it recommended having one at Spruce Side, I was willing to support that. But I also think that if we're creating these walkways that are directing people through to a very busy street, I'm concerned that people, if someone were to get injured there, that the town might open themselves up to a liability if we haven't ensured a safe crossing at that particular junction.
Okay, thank you.
So that's why I put forward that motion.
Okay, thank you very much for the clarity on that. And I have a question for Mr. Mantle. You said that it's sort of Spruce Side to this Fallingbrook area where it comes out is about 150 meters, is that correct?
That's my estimate, yes.
And would that be a similar distance to Quaker, that intersection, about probably maybe 200 meters, is that correct?
More like 50, I would think.
250?
Yeah.
Okay, which would be the next natural area to cross. Okay. And this will be, I think, Councillor, with your motion, it's not to say fait accompli, it's going to be done, but to put it into our 2014 budget considerations, is that correct?
Yeah, let's consider it.
Okay, thank you.
Let's consider it.
Okay, so the amendment is to add that consideration to our 2014 budget considerations. I'm going to call the question on Councillor Kersey and Councillor Papp's amendment. All those in favor? Any opposed? That amendment is carried. And now to the main motion as amended. Any further discussion? Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion regarding this? I'm going to call the question as amended. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried as amended. And I see that the Shells are here, and thank you for your participation in that creative problem-solving session and for your tenacity on this issue. I know you very, very tenacious with your views on this, and so thank you very much, and we look forward to the installation. Mr. Mantle, the timing of the installation is again this fall, is that correct?
That's what we hope. It's all in scheduling with the region and with the materials, purchase of materials.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. So hopefully this fall. Thank you again. The next item is presentation consideration of bylaws. It has been moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Drilley, that leave now be given to introduce the following bylaws and to dispense with the reading of the bylaws. Being a bylaw to re-divide the ward boundaries in the town of Pelham and to repeal and replace bylaw 463 from 1978 as amended by bylaw 488, 1978. 2, being a bylaw to repeal bylaw 2619, 2004 and 2943. No, I think you have this backwards. Wayland Heights is off the agenda.
Oh,
It's this one. Sorry, apologies. It's being a bylaw to, sorry, we'll go back. So it's it's being a bylaw to remove the holding provision at residence of Lookout, plan of subdivision. The third is being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into a subdivision agreement with Rittenhouse Estates. The fourth being a bylaw to designate the street names for Rittenhouse subdivision, those being Wilson Crossing and Tanner Drive. And the fifth being a bylaw to appoint Beverly Lovejoy to the Communities in Bloom Committee. Sorry about that. Questions, comments? I see that some members of the community that wrote a letter to us are now here. They weren't here earlier. We'll have to debrief later. We did have a discussion at council. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. And that the following bylaw have been considered first time be numbered as follows. Bylaw 3,402 through to bylaw 3,406, 2013. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. It's been moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Ribbiak. I didn't think so. Okay, we do have an in-camera portion, and as is our custom, we take a brief recess, continue with the meeting later on. So it has been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Durley, that Council recess the in-camera portion of the meeting and reconvene immediately following the Policy and Priorities Committee meeting scheduled later for this evening. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. This portion of council is recessed officially until the end of our P&P meeting. Thank you. We'll take a 5-minute break.
Was put in so that it did not restrict staff members from being able to accept those gifts. If there's specific wording, this is with working with the experts and making sure we weren't too defined, and then staff started questioning every time that they attended one of these things, whether they could accept the gift or whatever. So this was their recommendation on how we kept the wording. But if there's some certain wording that you wanted to see change in there, we could consider that.
I don't have, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I don't have a suggestion for specific wording. I'm concerned that it's left just a little too broad. I mean, it just seems to me that if you've exempted gifts received from professional associations, I know what was meant. You know what was meant. Fortunately, it's not what it says, and therefore, that's not all it says. So it kind of leaves itself open for some potential misinterpretation. I'm just suggesting that maybe some thought be given to being a bit more specific about what it exactly is meant. And what you're suggesting makes absolute sense, and accept it, understand it. Just want to be sure that the words also reflect that.
Okay. In the policy states it's for services to these organizations. So, I mean, there has to be a service that is provided, or a gift cannot be received. So that's the wording that we thought captured the fact that you are doing something on behalf of someone else and receiving a gift in kind for it, instead of a wage, for instance. So we could take it back and talk to the consultants as well, and look at something more specific to.
Yeah, it just strikes me that way. If it doesn't strike anyone else that way, then I probably don't have a problem with it, because I do understand your intent, and I support it. It's just I'm concerned about the words. If nobody else is that concerned, then that's fine.
All right, thank you. Councillor Durley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And as Carrie suggested, she can look for tweaking wording, and I can appreciate where Councillor Ribbiak is coming from. So if we can accept this in principle, and if in fact there is a recommendation that makes it, from the consultant, that we can do that at final approval of that. So we don't hold this up, okay?
Okay, thank you very much. So, Madam CEO, you'll look to that, okay? Thank you. Councillor Papp, anything further on?
Along the same lines, just but going back, Councillor Ribbiak, I just says, an employee, I can't even talk, may involve himself or her in a non-municipal election campaign unless it'll affect their judgment and performance of duties. Question is, who will make that determination?
Ms. Pupo?
No, I don't want you, because
it's
it's not
a
like it's a
rhetorical
policeman's
question?
good. It's gonna be like, you can't get involved, you can be involved in that, but it'll affect your performance. Who's going to make that? Who's going to decide on that? Maybe you can ask, I know the answer is ask the Burke Group, because I know that's happened in a couple of instances where people were involved in other political campaigns and they were requested, said you cannot participate, and there was a challenge. There were some legal challenges where the actual employee won the challenge. Said, it's not affecting my performance. Who are you to pass judgment on me, whether I'm aligned, not specifically within a municipal campaign, but I'm just curious to see what the response would be.
I believe the intent, sorry, we've got 43 policies on this, and then 100 on the workplace health and safety. But the intent here is much like the, we have in our offer letters that employees can engage in, a dual employment. if it will affect their work, and that would be at the discretion of the supervisor and you know, performance appraisals or performance management, and identifying that it is now affecting the performance of their jobs, and that's what this clause was written in there for.
So it would be the supervisor that if the person was involved in a election other than municipal, they would make the determination if that was affecting their
That's
performance?
absolutely correct.
Okay, I'm still.
Well, I guess it begs the question,
you know what I'm
Counselor,
saying, Mr.
What
Mayor?
happens if the person and the supervisor, I mean, there's probably
Objective.
other issues there. So maybe what you're thinking about, I'm thinking about, is there a policy of what happens if there's a discrepancy with the policy? What's the next step, right? So if it's a supervisor saying, no, you can't do that, and the person says, I don't think it's affecting my work, what's the next step of the appeal that the employee has? Is that what you're alluding to, Counselor?
That's one, that's very good. The other one I was getting at, particularly when it comes to politics, somebody may say you're affecting, I have my rights to be involved in political activity. And I'm not trying to make it more complicated, but I know I was involved when something like this happened. A municipal employee who was actively involved in another type of campaign, and he basically retorted and said, you can't stop me from doing this. I'm doing my job. But there was a question of, you know, what do you call it? Not prejudice, just a subjective type of evaluation of that person's performance, when in fact that was not the case. The person was doing perfectly well. But the other part of it is, right, how do I appeal? What if I don't like what this has happened? So I'm not asking for a answer tonight. If you could investigate that, I'd appreciate it. Am I off base, or am I?
No.
I don't know.
Okay.
Municipal issue that's open to subjectivity? Hardly.
And Mr. Mayor, my comment with respect to that is that this goes to the question of judgment. Will it affect their judgment as to specifically performance? And I suppose I can envision political positions taken elsewhere that could have impact municipally, and people start behaving in accordance with that sort of stuff. But
Okay.
so I understand the intent of that as well.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
that's all.
Ms. Pupo, will you investigate those two items for
I think
the
the,
council?
yes. I will.
And come back to our council
Ask
meeting?
Ann.
Okay,
She knows
thank you.
what I mean.
Anything further on this? I do have one question, and that is, Ms. Pupo, that some, it says here that removing the confidential information, use of municipal property, hiring of relatives, and all of those things. So those, I guess the question is, if we do this in advance of adopting policies, we already have policies on those, is that correct? Or,
Yes.
and they're in effect and,
Yes.
okay. I just don't want to remove it in one and have a vacancy there.
There's these policies have stripped out where the policies overlap each other, so that only one policy is dealing with, you know, the use of, the hiring of relatives, for instance, and so forth. So it was stripped out of this policy and put into the policy for employee hiring, or
Perfect.
whatever that one's called, okay?
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. We look forward to those clarifying elements coming forward to us. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Durley, seconded by Councillor King, that the Policies and Priorities Committee recommend to Council that Policy S-301-05, Employee Orientation Human Resources Policy, be approved. Any discussion regarding that item? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. The next item has been moved by Councillor Papp, second by Councillor Durley. The Policies and Priorities Committee recommend to Council that Policy S-301-04, Employee Computer Tablet Purchase Plan, be approved. Questions? Councillor Rbiak.
Thank you. I'm sure there's just some words missing, but it changes the meaning of things. With respect to the loan agreement, the words in the proposal are: the town of Pelham does charge interest in accordance with the Consumer Price Index. Consumer Price Index doesn't have an interest rate. I'm sure you meant that the interest rates would change with the Consumer Price Index, or I mean, I don't understand the relationship between an interest rate and Consumer Price Index.
Consumer Price Index is the amount that inflation has increased for throughout the year, so that's the rate that we charge to the employees.
So if I understand, what you're saying is that the interest rate that will be charged to employees is the rate by which
The value of money.
The consumer price index has moved. So if it moves year over year 1.1%, that's the interest rate. If it's not related to the value of money to us, if we go to a bank and get it, it's related to the consumer price. I don't think I've ever heard an interest rate attached or taken wholesale from a consumer price index. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. It's used in many organizations for, it's referred to as the low interest bearing loan, and they suggest that you use the consumer price index for that because, I mean, obviously if you go to the bank, you're going to get a much more higher interest rate.
Okay, so if I may ask a follow-up question. So how this works is if the employee takes out this loan, he takes it at zero interest, and then when the consumer price index moves, the percentage by which it moves will then be charged?
No, they're charged by last year's consumer price index. So,
Okay.
so if you get the 2012 index rate right now is, I think, 2.1%, I think.
This month, year over year?
Yes, for the whole year. And that's the year, that's the rate we use for that year. And then it changes each year. We check the consumer price index at that year.
And so the interest rate is as of the date that the loan is taken out?
That's
on
right.
that date, what the consumer price index is from a year ago to now, that's the interest rate that's charged for the following year.
Yes.
Okay, as a mechanism, I guess it works. It just seems strange to me, and maybe it's just because I'm not.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Clark?
Three questions, if I could, please. The first is, has anyone ever borrowed money from the town of Pelham? I don't need a name or number, I just need to know that this has ever been used by anyone?
This
Yes.
policy?
Yes, it's used extensively by staff.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Then I'll just skip to my third one, and I have to go along with Councilor Ribbiak. I've never heard of an interest rate set on that before, being that far behind. I mean, but I'm just going to stay out of it. I'm done. That's enough. Thank you. Doesn't really matter.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Durley?
Has there ever been a time where the consumer price index went down, and if that's the case, would the so-called interest rate be lowered?
Ms. Pupol?
Yes, over the years, the interest rate has dropped, just as the bank rate has dropped, the consumer price index dropped significantly as a result of that as well.
So if it goes down, would the...
You're saying negative or lower than the previous year?
Lower than-
Negative.
Councillor Durley is saying negative.
Oh, it's never been in a negative
Never
position
been a
for
negative?
us.
Okay.
No.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Others?
That would be a really bad recession.
Okay, I'll call the question.
Not
All
a
those in
recession.
favor?
No, it's not.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. It has been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Durley. The Policy and Priorities Committee recommend to Council that policy S301-02 biweekly employee payroll requirements human resources policy be approved. Discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Durley. The Policy and Priorities Committee recommend to Council that policy S301-01 benefit plans human resources policy be approved. Questions, Councillor Ribbiak?
Just for clarification, so, and I don't know what existed before, I probably should have. Are we now including vision and dental because we didn't have it before, or?
Absolutely.
So these are new?
They're not new to this year. They were approved by council in a few years ago in budget, and they just weren't in part of the policy.
Okay, so that's
Been added.
correcting the policy
Yeah.
to match. And if I can ask another?
Yeah, go ahead,
question. Just for information again, how competitive is this municipally? Are we as good as or better than? Hopefully, we're a little better than.
We're as good as the other municipalities. We generally are in line with what other municipalities are offering across the board. So we have a big sheet and we share all of our benefits and that we provide to the employees. And that's what we had done a few years back. We just brought ourselves up to kind of the standards of what the other municipalities were offering. So that's where we're at.
Again, a question, if I may, just as follow-up. Now, is that done consultation with other municipalities, or so the municipalities within the region, I guess, have taken upon themselves not to compete with one another for employees with benefits, that it's all going to be the same?
Can you answer
No,
that, Ms. Pupil?
I'm sorry, that's not correct. They each individually will develop what benefits they're going to offer to their staff. So, I mean, what we did was we looked at the benefits as part of our negotiations with staff several years back. We didn't have anything for orthodontics coverage or anything like that. And we also had vision that was outside of the benefit company that we were using. So bringing that in-house actually helped us to, or bringing that to the benefit company, reduce the cost to the town for vision care, but just brought us in line with what some of the other municipalities were offering when we were looking at to make sure that, you know, if we were offering these benefits to staff, are they in excess of what other municipalities are doing, or kind of borderline and the same? So some have, you know, orthodontics, they'll get more. Dental, they'll have a little bit more coverage over the year. But we have not had any issues with staff with respect to the benefits that we're currently offering. So this is this doesn't detail the exact benefits. If there's a consideration to increase benefits, that would come back to a operating budget for council to consider at that time.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, one more follow-up.
Go ahead.
Again, for information. So is our philosophy then to be as good as the best locally, or?
No, definitely not. Our philosophy is to try to be better, to, you know, entice employees to want to come here and to work here for an extensive benefit package and what we have to offer. We are looking at all of the benefits every year as we go forward with our the use of the benefits and what they're using them for. And there just hasn't been a need to increase any of those because none of them are going outside their using what our maximum is.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Mayor.
thank you. Councilor Durley?
Is there a difference between the level of benefit package offerings that non-union and union municipalities have? For example, Welland is unionized, and they would negotiate at a different level, and in fact, if they got that gain, would that be in consideration of what we would be looking at as a review?
Ms. Pupil?
Absolutely. We look at all of the benefits, unionized and otherwise. When we had done this originally and came back to council, I believe it was the 2011 budget that we had asked for the orthodontics and some increases in some of the other benefit areas. It was to bring us kind of, you know, up to par with everybody else, and then monitoring on a regular basis to see how we're using it. And the only thing that I think we changed last year, or we did change one thing last year, was to add eye exams, because they took that off of OHIP, and we brought that in so that it was covered for them as well. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Councilor Papp, you're going to ask that question?
I got to. I'm just curious. All of us as councilors and the mayor, I know we receive a paycheck. We get a payroll stub. Are we defined as employees of the Pelham Corporation or as directors of the corporation?
We're defined as employees under Revenue Canada.
Under revenue, we're
Yeah.
defined as employees. Okay. I'm unionized. Okay, that's good.
I guess some councils are. Some councils are across the country. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Okay.
I'm going to call the question. Good questions, and thank you for the answers. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. The next item has been moved by Councilor Papp, second by Councilor Durley. The Policies and Priorities Committee recommend to Council that Policy S301-20, Attendance Human Resources Policy, be approved. Councilor Ribbiak.
I have only a comment. I like it. Thank you.
What,
Thank
the
you.
absenteeism?
It's a smart policy.
Others?
Ditto.
Yeah, I'll agree with Councilor Ribbiak.
A question. Just help me here, because don't understand it as well as some of these HR folks, I guess. But at a certain point, a short-term disability would kick in, and a long-term disability, and so is not that date, that time, sort of notionally the maximum for this? Like, can you just explain the interaction between sick leave and a short-term disability?
Okay. Sick leave is, you're off sick with the flu and you call in and you're not coming in today. Short-term disability starts from the day you would enter into a hospital or have a note that says that you're going to be off for a certain amount of time because of an injury or so forth. And it automatically kicks in from that time. But under the old policy, you would use your sick days up first and then go on to the short-term disability. So under this policy now, there is no sick days allocated. Like the policy says, if you're sick, we will miss you, but we will be monitoring the absences and looking for any patterns and so forth. And we believe that this policy will reduce the amount of sick time that we have, because a lot of times it's seen as an allocation and not a
Right, not a privilege.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
No, that clarifies it. I was worried that short-term disability didn't start after X days and therefore notionally, but great explanation. What does this mean for those that have banked current sick leave, and is there a concern for that it requires some sort of consideration on behalf of the employer to the employee? If you understand the second part of the question.
No, we don't think that there's any impact whatsoever, because they're not days that are carried forward, that are, payable or have some sort of monetary value. It's simply, if you didn't use some of your days from a prior year, you got to bank some of them for next year to a maximum of 9 only ever. So now we just say you don't have any days left. If you're sick, please take the day off, because we don't want the whole place to get sick, but that's how we will present this and bring it forward to the staff.
Okay, final question. Some businesses, municipalities have account for sick days as, especially if there's kind of carryovers, as unfunded liabilities, that eventually they'll have, I guess if that's monetized. So we don't have any concerns with that. What I'm hearing is we don't have that banked anywhere. It's not an unfunded liability. We don't have to worry about it. It's just, this is a change and we can move forward.
Yes, actually, it helps us with our auditing.
In what way?
Because we no longer have to do that liability consideration at all.
Okay, that helps. Thank you. Councilor Ribbiak?
If I might add, there's no material impact on people, because if they are sick, they have the time. So there's no difference in practicality in terms of impact on the individual.
Okay. And then the final question is, it speaks here about the what's it called? Progressive dismissal policy.
Discipline.
Progressive, I have dismissal, but discipline policy. So that policy is already in place and no overlap and all that, because the old policy had all that in there, if you're sick for this long and you don't have a proof, et cetera.
That's right. That's why we just refer it to the progressive discipline policy now, because then the overlapping is filtered out.
Thank you. Anyone else? Helps explain it. You're going to communicate this with staff, presumably?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. There's a good headline. Town of Pelham eliminates sick time. No?
Please, don't be helpful.
Don't start it.
Oh, the clerk says tell staff first. I'll send an email out tonight.
Yeah.
I need a motion for this, that we adjourn the meeting. Councillor Papp will second Councillor Ribbiak's motion that this regular meeting of Policy and Priorities Committee be adjourned to the next regular meeting, being the Committee of the Whole, scheduled for Tuesday, September 3rd, 2013, unless sooner called by the Mayor. I just want to comment, thank you very much for bringing forward those policies, the HR policies. We'll be seeing more 5 or 6 coming forward at subsequent meetings, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
One controversial one each time.
One controversial one each time, she says. Okay, thank you. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
And it's 9:59.
Yeah, but we still got.